Welcome in to Check the Mic. Steve Palazzolo, Sam Monson, live on YouTube, coming at you from the Antonio Cromartie studio in part with Huggies. All brought to you by FanDuel. Starting to roll. It's time, Sam, for our Week 11 NFL preview, like home stretch here of the season that just started.
From, as you pointed out, a warm studio. It's not cold in here.
Yeah, we got some heat coming in. Feels good. Feeling good about what the winter might hold for us.
Feeling better than when it was cold
in the concrete box here.
Although that does just make it confusing. Now I don't know what the dress code should be.
You got some good insulating brick, is what it
I don't think that's helping us.
No.
You know, it's only one corner. The rest of the place is not insulated. But it does mean that now, we're gonna have to show up in layers, and then
you just never know.
Depending on what the temperature is, will dictate how many layers we remain in.
We got a monster show because it's Week 11, all sorts of games. We got some big games that I was so excited about. That's all I could talk about on Monday.
Okay.
Reviewing last week, I was just looking ahead to the next game. So let's give us a little update on our terrible picks.
Yeah. Well, the two leagues that we have going, obviously Survivor and a Pick'em. We got 500 people from the Discord in each one of those. It was a bad week for the remaining Survivor people. We have 27 remaining. We lost more than half of the pool last week.
Wow.
From a quick scan, it looked like almost all of them picked the Panthers to beat the lowly Saints, and that didn't happen. So a bunch of people got screwed by the Panthers. The Pick'em League, Maxwell 81798 is still in the lead as he was last week, but now he's joined by Golfaholic again, who has been at least tied, or if not alone in the lead previously this season. They're both up there at first with 91 wins, a couple, I think, clear of everybody else. I'm on 80, so I'm 11 games back, tied for 56th. Let's go Harry. Harry's 10 back from me at 70. And you are 2 games back from your child at 68.
Yeah. The Texans game, that's what killed me.
That's it.
That game.
Yeah.
If I just had that.
If you just had that, you would be merely 11 games back from
momentum.
Me.
Plus the one I accidentally misclicked, I'd be tied with Harry.
And another 11 back from the lead. Yeah.
Yeah, be right in there. Different strategy for the second half, starting next week.
Just use data and take yourself out of the equation.
Data-centric from Thanksgiving on.
What if you just picked the favorite every game?
I'm sure it'd be fine. I'm sure it'd be great. Anyway, we're just having fun.
I think really the more you can take your own intuition out of the equation, the better you'll pick.
We're just having fun here. Anything else at the top?
No.
Memberships. Next week's our next watch-along for members only.
Okay.
We have some really cool stuff planned for the off-season when it comes to draft season. For the Super Bowl for members, I believe. We'll see. We'll see if we open it up.
Maybe for everybody, yeah.
Maybe for everybody.
We'll see.
But just check out the membership options. Check them out. Appreciate everybody that's already joined and those who are considering. So we'll have our next members-only watch-along next Thursday night. What's the game again? I forget.
I don't know.
Bills. I think it's a Bills game next Thursday.
Yeah, Bills, Texans, was that it?
That sounds right. Sounds right. Anyway, you ready?
Sure.
Week 11. It all starts tonight, Thursday night, New York Jets at the New England Patriots. Patriots favored by 12.5. And everything's changed in New England this season.
They're good now.
Now battling for a number 1 overall seed. However, they're battling a Jets team with 2 straight wins.
Oh, on a roll.
On a roll,
yeah.
The Jets beating the Browns and the Bengals over the last couple of weeks. Of course,
powerhouses.
Yes. Of course, they got rid of Sauce Gardner, Quinnen Williams, missing some players. Didn't matter. Still beat the Browns.
Well, it turns out that was the solution. All you needed to do was to get rid of your best players.
The good player gone bump.
Yeah. The famous good player gone bump.
8-2 Patriots and the 2-7 Jets tonight in Foxborough.
Yeah. The Patriots have been really impressive this season. By the way, just another boot on the grave of Bill Belichick's legacy. Things aren't going so well for him in college. Meanwhile, the Patriots have been rescued by not the Belichick coaching tree, Mike Vrabel.
Just a former player.
Just puts it back together again like it's nothing.
Yeah.
And everything's good. That can't be great for the legacy. But
Patriots now have 8 wins on the season, same number they had over the last 2 seasons combined.
Yeah, and they look really good. And as we've said, every week there's a slightly different challenge that they're posed, whether it's, bad team that's a trap week, a legitimately good team, team that does something creative schematically, rain last week. And every time they answer the call and they get it done. Drake May looks fantastic. The receiving core looks pretty good, even though Kayshon Boutte's been missing. Like, it doesn't look like an elite receiving core on paper, but it's certainly patched together and performing well enough. They've been kind of forced to use Travion Henderson a bit, and turns out he's really explosive and dangerous, and maybe you might want to tap into that at some point. But, yeah, everything's good in New England, and the only challenge here is you just don't screw it up against a division rival.
Yeah, and it's not just this week. If we look ahead, we know New England has had one of the easiest schedules, if not the easiest to this point. Jets this week, they come to Cincinnati off the mini bye next week, and then the Giants on a Monday night game, by the way. And so Jets, Bengals, Giants, combined wins of 7 over the next 3 weeks. So New England has a golden opportunity to be 11-2 heading into their late bye. They have a week 14 bye, and then it gets a little more challenging. The rematch with the Bills and then the Ravens, and then the Jets and Dolphins again. So I've gone through the whole schedule. So they're going to be heavily favored, I would say, in 5 out of their next 7 games, with the 2 big challenges being the Buffalo rematch at home and going to Baltimore. So they have an opportunity, if you don't slip up, opportunity for, we're talking number 1 seed, we're talking home field advantage at least, and a legitimate chance, obviously, to win the division. Actually, they're more favored at this point because of Buffalo's loss last week against Miami. So every game's huge for New England at this point. You mentioned Drake May throwing the ball well. Last week, I thought I was impressed with, he missed some early throws, but he didn't take those negative plays, wasn't getting sacked like he had in previous weeks, and still made several big-time throws, maneuvering the pocket, bomb to Mac Hollins, the beautiful throw to Kyle Williams for the long touchdown. May continues to play well, and without Kayshon Boutte, who's been having a great season, he's banged up again. And so the other part of what Drake May's been able to do, and it's a very inconsistent run game, right? It's down to down, not very efficient. Travion had those 2 big long runs though. I think that's something they're going to have to get going down the stretch here. Is a little bit more, not so much balance, but consistency on offense. You don't want to be sitting there in 3rd and long all the time. And I think Travion Henderson, if he could, it's not that he's going to rattle off a 50-yarder every single week, but he does have that big playability, and continuing to give him some carries, I think, should help this offense.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how much leaning on Travion Henderson helps the run game. He's clearly explosive, and I think there's value still, even if it's inconsistent, in having a guy that's explosive that can take it to the house if you get him a crease. Ross Tucker tweeted something like that last week, like, why don't we just get running backs that all run 4-3 flat, like these explosive, dynamic guys?
That's what I say every draft season.
Yeah. I mean, there was a time where it looked like that was the way the league was going, and then we pivoted back maybe a little bit towards just all-around running backs. But there was a stretch where, like, every guy at the top of, like, the PFF running back grades were, guys like Etienne. It was all these, like, smaller scat back body types, but explosive players. They could all take a crease and go for a touchdown. Travion Henderson is that kind of player, and even if they're only leaning on him now because they have to, it might actually help the run game.
Other side of the ball, we see the Jets are coming off of a win in which they had the 2 special teams touchdowns.
Yeah.
They had like 30 net passing yards. They had 42 yards on a screen, and then 12 other gross passing yards, whatever it was.
You get like moral victories. That was a moral loss. It was a moral defeat, even though they won.
The pass game was terrible. I got another stat for you. So my point on that was this feels like a game where, remember the Jets almost upset the Bucs and then lost late because they had a blocked field goal for a touchdown. This feels like a game where the Jets they're gonna need something special from a special teams perspective. If they're gonna keep this close, if they're gonna pull the upset, they're going to need something like that, or Justin Fields simply to play better. Fields has had, I would say, 2 good games this year. Steelers in week 1, and then the Bengals game when they made that comeback.
I was going to say, and it's been a while.
Yeah.
So we're
I mean, it was a couple weeks ago, but it was like spread out a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, as much as the season is kind of spiraling for them, it does feel like we're due a good Fields game as opposed to a game where he gets, more sacks than yards or whatever.
And that's the key, right? There's so many games where he's getting sacked 5 times and has 9 completions. And I say so many games. Like, if there's one of those, that's a lot. That's just not a common NFL stat line.
And he has several.
He's got a couple of them. So New England keep an eye on them blitzing. The Jets, when there's at least one or more off-ball blitzer, so any sort of linebacker, safety, you know what their yards per pass are?
I don't.
0.2, just 0.2 yards.
That's not a lot.
Per pass. And they're allowing 65% pressure rate, which is the worst in the NFL.
That's also pretty bad.
So blitz Fields
Yeah.
and make them beat you, and then you have Garrett Wilson banged up, and it's like, all right, to beat the blitz, you need a receiver that's going to get open quickly, that you're on the same page with, and I just don't think the Jets have that. So New England sealed the deal last week with a really nice blitz setup against Baker Mayfield. I would just keep an eye on their pressure packages tonight against Fields.
Yeah, I mean, you blitz them, you take away the actual threat of the pass, then all you got to do is worry about Fields being athletic and beating you with a scramble somewhere, and just keep him bottled up and contained, or at least flush him somewhere that you feel good about. Just don't let him, run for 55 and score a touchdown off the back of the blitz.
The last thing, I think that'll just be a fun watch here. Gillette Stadium, obviously they had the 20-year run in New England. After Brady left, there was very little to cheer about, to the point when Bailey Zappi made his little run. That was like the most electric that place had been since the Brady era. Remember, Bailey Zappi just comes in on Monday Night Football and throws a touchdown, and the place was going nuts. I have a feeling it's gonna be electric in New England. It's a Jets game, even though they're over 10-point favorites. It'll be fun. I think it'll be a fun atmosphere with New England fans feeling good again for the first time in about 4 years. Other than Bailey's.
They've had a long period of misery.
It's been rough
in the cellar, and now
Foxborough.
It's finally their time again to shine.
Just saying, from a broadcast perspective, I feel like you're gonna feel it. It's gonna come through.
It's really nice when you get to see a downtrodden franchise, finally enjoying some success.
My other prediction is you're gonna know where everybody goes to college, with Kirk and Al on the call.
Yeah, that's Kirk's MO. That's what he brings to the table. AI Kirk.
Anything else on Jets Patriots? Patriots by 12.5. Over under, by the way, 43.5 here by per FanDuel.
No, I mean, I guess the fact that it's a Thursday night game makes it slightly more interesting, because weird results and games tend to get thrown up. Like, it seems almost impossible to envisage the Jets actually winning this game. The question just becomes, is New England's success enough to cover a 12.5-point line? But
so much weird stuff has happened
exactly.
on Thursday night.
Thursday night game plus the division game. Like, it's one of those games where you're like, there's no good reason why this would go the Jets' way, but games like that have happened already this season several times. So you're like, how would this go? I mean, one of the ways it would go is the inverse of what happened to the Jets last week, right? Instead of getting instead of getting those multiple, no, they would need that again, right? They would need multiple special teams and or defensive touchdowns in order to hang in a game that they otherwise have no business being in.
Yeah. And look, like I said, all year on Thursday Night Football, we had a banged up Niners team beat the Rams. We had the Bengals with Joe Flacco, beat the Steelers. We had a lot of random. We had the Raiders, hang tough with the Broncos and only lose by 3. So anything can happen. We've had a lot of big lines on Thursday Night Football, and you would think, and I usually pick the favorite and lose. So you would think I would learn from that, but I haven't.
You would think you'd learn.
You would think. I'm not going to learn from anything. Where are you going to go with this one? Patriots by 12.5.
The only other thing, by the way, that could swing it would be crazy weather, and there doesn't appear to be any. So
that's unfortunate. It's weather season. So
it is. You got to. It's the time of the year where you have to at least check the forecast for every game, just in case what you're saying is completely implausible, because there's going to be like a hurricane blowing.
Is there a wintry mix?
Right.
Oregon, Iowa had a really nice wintry mix last week. Really good.
Oh, Oregon against Iowa?
Oregon against a legendary Big Ten matchup.
I thought for a moment Oregon, Iowa was, Bismarck, North Dakota.
Like there was a Florida, Massachusetts.
North Dakota? One of the Dakotas.
Florida, Massachusetts is a place.
Yeah. Ridiculous name. Anyway.
This one's in Foxborough.
Yes. I'm going to go with the Patriots, and I'm going to go with them covering, even though it's a giant line.
All right. I'll also take the Patriots, as will 10-year-old Harry, who's got me by 2 games so far. All right, we got some big ones to discuss here. Seattle Seahawks at the Los Angeles Rams. Unfortunately, it's the 4:05 game. This is I could do 10 minutes on this.
You could.
Sunday at 4:05. Rams favored by 3. Over-unders 48.5. They're starting it in the middle of the witching hour. That's an embarrassment by the NFL.
It's at the middle of the witching hour.
Toward the tail end of the witching, within the witching hour.
Usually within the witching hour.
Yes. 325 to 420. This should be a 425 game. I know they've got Chiefs Broncos and they're owning the 425 window. Tony's on the call with Jim.
Oh, is he?
It's got to be. So I get it. Should be a 425 game.
I really enjoy when Tony Romo gets buried in the 1 p.m. slate when there's like 12 games going and you
move the volume.
You barely hear him. When he's
on his when he's in the talk about on Monday morning.
When he's in the 425 window and there's only 3 games on in the afternoon, like that's a huge amount of Tony Romo you got to suffer through, and I don't enjoy that.
Don't be mean. I never know who's on the call until I turn on the game.
Turn on the TV and you're surprised like everyone else.
Yeah. Anyway, should be a great game. We've got the 7-2 Seahawks, the 7-2 Rams. It's a very competitive NFC West. Seahawks have been dominating their opponents in recent weeks.
Yeah.
Rams have looked great. Stafford's I believe the leader in the clubhouse for the MVP.
Well, he's on some crazy run of like 20 touchdowns, no interceptions, and the box score numbers are out of this world for the last like month or whatever.
Yes. And Darnold's numbers are out of this world as well. So I'll get into some of those in a minute, but what are you looking for in this one?
I mean, look, this feels like the matchup of the year so far. These are 2 dominant teams, 2 teams that all of a sudden are Super Bowl contenders. I think the Rams, a lot of people thought that was the case coming into the year. And then Seattle in the last few weeks, all season long, but certainly in the last few weeks have looked like the best team in the NFL. Now, you pointed out, look at who they did that against. Well, this is an opportunity to show that was for real, and it wasn't just a case of running up against a bunch of no-hoping franchises. If they come out here and that offense still looks as good as it's looked, or even if the whole team looks as good as it looked against the Rams, I mean, now you're talking about like legit, number 1 seed, best team in the NFC, serious contender. And plus, as you pointed out previously, the Rams were Sam Darnold's kryptonite last year. They were the team that ruined him twice. The first game was the first game where things kind of really went wrong for them. Now, I countered with, he also got his head wrenched off in the end zone. The refs were just like, what? Sorry? And that was one of the reasons they lost the game. I think that would have been, even if he'd executed a drive from his own end zone all the way to score, that would have only tied the game, right? It's not like that was the
Thursday night game where we were robbed more of entertainment.
It was more, yeah. It was more that basically ended a game where the Vikings would have had a chance to answer and keep it alive, and that could have been a box score or a grandstand ending to the game, as opposed to they were robbed of a win that was rightfully theirs. And then the playoffs, the wheels completely fell off the second time. So the Rams were the team that ruined Darnold last year, almost single-handedly.
Yes, and Darnold was rolling last year, but the playoff game in particular, right? You had the back-to-back games where Darnold struggled, and the Rams won. He got sacked 7 or 8 times. That's what I'm keeping an eye on, the way the Rams can pressure Sam Darnold and slow him down. Some QB stats and where these 2 guys rank. I mean, by several measures, or at least one in particular. Several measures, Sam Darnold is great this year.
Several measures.
And Stafford's very good this year. It's the top 2 PFF graded quarterbacks. Sam Hoppen, who we mentioned on the show every Thursday, has a whole bunch of really nice charts in here to help break all these down. Number 1 and 2.
Hoppen to conclusions.
Yes. Number 1 and 2 in PFF grade. Darnold 1, Stafford 2. Darnold is also number 1 in EPA per play, success rate. The Seattle's own CPOE, always a Seahawks quarterback up there. That's completion percentage over expected. He's at 11%. So what that number is trying to say is his completion percentage is 11% higher than what it should be based off the throws that he's made. Now you could figure out how that all works and everything, but that all comes from him throwing the ball, completing like 65% of his passes down the field. And him and JSN have just been so good.
Yeah.
JSN creating separation, Darnold throwing just dimes down the field. Darnold's doing a good job also taking care of the ball, really low turnover-worthy play rate. However, some of those have come in bunches over the last few weeks, and just that's one of the keys to keep an eye on, I would say. Always been he's been like a cluster turnover-worthy play guy, I would say, Darnold. A little bit like Baker Mayfield. You might have a couple weeks without them, and then you might have a game with 4. And so I would just keep an eye on that. Like if we wake up Monday morning, we come in here talking about the game, we might say the difference in the game would be Darnold's ability to take care of the ball, which has been good to this point this year. Stafford's, like I said, second in PFF grade, ninth in EPA per play, a little bit lower than I expected. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like they've been rolling offensively, but that production number is a little bit lower. But he's in the top 10 in several other metrics, and himself included, similar turnover-worthy play rate. And both guys, so overall taking care of the ball, making big plays down the field, throw for throw, the two best in the league per PFF. It's going to be an awesome matchup.
Yeah, it should be. I'm also pretty interested to see how Seattle is going to try and combat this 13 personnel, the heavy tight end sets that the Rams have been deploying. Number one, will they do the same thing? They've been using multiple tight ends, 3 tight ends in a formation, more than basically anybody else in the NFL. Last week it was through the roof, I think in large part because they just identified that as a problem for the 49ers. They were like, they don't have the players to match up with this, so let's force them into this all the time.
Can I give you a number for that to back up your point? 33rd team, crack research team. 45%, 13 personnel usage since week 6.
Yeah.
And the league average without the Rams is 5%.
Right.
So we're 9X. That's how rare 13 personnel is. That's 1 back, 3 tight ends. That's how rare it is. The Rams are using it 9 times more than the league average.
Yeah.
Carry on.
And it scaled up against a team like San Francisco. The Seahawks have linebackers, though. Like, they actually have a group where and they have a guy like Emanwari, who's a matchup, a tight end matchup type of player. So they have the bodies that you would say this team naturally does match up against that. Number one, do the Rams still go at it with that type of heavy deployment? Do they say, look, this is just a thing we found that's great, let's roll with it? Or is that more specific to teams where they don't like, or they like rather, the matchup that team's going to try and counter with, whether it's stay a nickel and you've got a mismatch against whatever tight end, whether it's they're going to put that third linebacker out that most teams don't love anymore is basically a special teams player at this stage. I think the Seahawks have the bodies to actually match up with it. So do the Rams still do it? And then if they do, how does that go?
Just from so schematically, there's a lot of great stuff in here. You mentioned Seattle's defense being able to match up with the Rams and what they're doing offensively. Seattle's defense, if we go through some of the best defenses in the league right now, who you're watching them every week and you're like, man, it's tough on opposing quarterbacks. Very difficult. Seattle is doing that. The meshing of their pass rush and their coverage unit, making everything difficult, tight window throws while creating havoc all over the place. The matchups are going to be great. Rams 13 personnel, Seattle, everything Greg Olsen has been talking about these last couple weeks on social media, talking about, look, the Seahawks don't run the ball effectively, but they run the ball often, but all of their efficiency comes through the pass game. Their run-pass splits are very old-school Shanahan-Kubiak, where you're only dropping back. I mean, last week you only dropped back 13 times because the game got out of hand, but their classic game would be 20 for 27, right? You're not going to even throw the ball 30 times, but it's 9 yards per attempt, and the fact that Darnold is pushing 10 yards per attempt is insane efficiency. So there's so much good from an X's and O's perspective and what these teams are doing and how they're going to match up. The first time they're matching up, they have another one as well. So these are 2 huge games. Now, from a mental, emotional standpoint, you got the Sam Darnold question here, Sam. This is his first really big test.
Against his nemesis.
With a lot on, it's not just the nemesis of the Rams, but this matters.
That has to be a part of it, though.
Right? This matters maybe more than other quarterbacks, right? Sam Darnold, I think throw for throw has been the best quarterback in the NFL this year. If you're talking about MVP or whatever, you could make the argument, well, it's low volume or what have. That's fine. Throw for throw, he's been the best by several metrics, as I already read. And now we get into when everything was on the line last year, week 18 against the Lions. It wasn't just that the Lions beat them. Darnold played completely differently, right? He put the ball in harm's way. He was awful in the red zone. He wasn't seeing the field. He was a little hesitant. And similar stuff happened against the Rams in the playoffs. So the last 2 monster games that Darnold had to play, we saw the worst of Sam Darnold. That has to play into, say, this Sunday's game.
Yeah, but I do think that the Rams specifically, that has to loom in Darnold's psyche. Like, you would be crazy to think that there's no way Darnold's even factoring that in. Like, this is somebody who, remember, one of the most famous Sam Darnold connected things was him basically having a meltdown on the sideline, being like, I'm seeing ghosts. I don't even know what I'm looking at right now, right? And I'm not blaming him for that. I'm just saying that is something that happened in his career. He met a really difficult-to-diagnose defense and basically imploded. And then we get to last year. I mean, obviously, he goes through a whole bunch of other things in his career. But you get to last year, and he has a rough game against the Rams midway through the season, albeit one in which they kind of got screwed at the end with that phantom or the call that was missed by the officials looking right at it. Then you get the Lions, who came at him, got him out of sorts early, and then he kind of melted down over the course of the game, trying to dig himself out of the hole. Then you come up against this Rams team again, and all the way through that week, everyone was like, you missed the opportunity to avoid this team by beating the Lions. Now you got to go and play this team that really gave you the best game of anybody else during the season. How is that going to go? And it went catastrophically. Like, he absolutely melted down in that game in a way that I think was even worse than the Lions game previously. So someone that's shown multiple times in his career that he can be got to from a kind of psychological standpoint, now has to play the team that's done that to him more than anybody else. There's no way that's not sitting there in the back of his brain somewhere that, like, this team ruined me last year. Now, even if he thinks he's in a great spot now and I'm a different guy and I've arrived, I'm just a different place mentally. What happens the first time, Jared Verse wrecks his tackle, puts him on the ground? Does that thing at the back of his head start being, knocking, making itself more known? I think that's a factor in this game. Like, if the Rams get to him early, how does he bounce back? If he has a mistake early, right? If he has one of those crazy fumbles in the end zone thing, if that happens in the first quarter, even the first half, how does Darnold react to anything negative that happens in this game? I think is a genuine factor and will be pretty fascinating to see.
And to be clear, I think Darnold, he hasn't played in a game as big as this, as far as stakes. Like, we're talking division stakes and as far as how well the Rams are playing. I think he's answered the call a lot over the last couple of years, right? He has had games where he's had some bad interceptions and bounced back against Jacksonville last year. He did have earlier this year. I thought he was outstanding in, say, the Arizona Thursday night football game, right? His defense is blowing the lead, and he throws a key back shoulder to JSN for the game winner. Tampa Bay, his defense kept failing him, and he kept coming back with some incredible plays. I mean, there are so many individual efforts that Sam Darnold has put out there in this season where it's more than just, hitting a couple downfield throws. He's doing it in crunch time, and he's doing it, when things are against him, and not just these last couple weeks when they've been dominant. So it's going to be fun, man. He's got 5 games with over 10 yards per attempt. It just sums up, what they've been able to do.
Yeah.
And then you have Stafford on the other side, on this incredible run. I think he's running that offense extremely well. You have McVay in his bag, creating mismatches, using their personnel. And, Devontae Adams has been an absolute mismatch weapon in the red zone. I know he's been banged up and, in and out over the last couple weeks, but another huge factor with him and Puka Nacua going up against the Seattle back seven.
Yeah, who have been playing spectacularly.
And they've been great. And then you just have overall, Mike Macdonald, it's year 2 for him in Seattle. Part of my optimism for Seattle was what Mike Macdonald did in year 2 as defensive coordinator in Baltimore. I think we're starting to see some of that defensively for Seattle. McVay's been one of the best young coaches in the league. He's still young. Been one of the best young coaches in the league.
Where does he
going
rank?
on a decade now? He's like top 3 or something.
Yeah, he's still like 3rd or 4th in terms of youngest coaches in the NFL.
But Macdonald is younger now, right? And has
always been.
Yeah. Yes. It's not just This week he's younger.
Yeah.
We might flip. Macdonald, he could be the defensive version of McVay, right? He's in there in Seattle and keeping them good and competitive for the next 8 to 10 years. So it's an awesome matchup, and it's going to be fun, and that's why they buried it in the 4 or 5 window here.
Buried, yeah. I've been really impressed. I brought him up a couple of weeks ago, but Reek Woolen, I think, has been playing spectacular football the last few weeks, and now he gets another really big challenge going up against those receivers.
Yeah, I mean, this game has everything. There's schematic intricacies because you've got two teams, especially the Rams, like at an extreme end. Like when you have extreme schematic differences, like what the Rams are doing, that's interesting. Two quarterbacks playing at a high level, two good young coaches who are on opposite sides of the ball going up against each other. This game has everything.
A really big test for that Seattle offensive line, which has been, much improved this year, but you would still not say is a massive strength of the team. Will they now go up against, like a legit badass defensive front? Saw, by the way, I think PFF listed him as some kind of, breakout player or, most improved or whatever. Could have seen it coming. Abraham Lucas puts the neck roll on, all of a sudden becomes good right tackle. I mean, what more do you need to see?
That's it, man.
I want to see an explosion of neck rolls and cowboy collars throughout the NFL for offensive linemen. Bring it back. Make offensive line aesthetics look great again.
I'm going to throw not completely off topic, but slightly, as we wrap this up.
What a shock.
You sent me a video of Aaron Donald working out.
Dude, what the hell? We
haven't mentioned Aaron Donald on the show in a while. It feels like we need to bring him up.
I'm not the largest person in the world, and I'm not the strongest person in the world. But, I can move weight relative to previously when I did nothing. I think that's fully twice the weight that I could lift doing that.
150s.
He got 150s dumbbells, right? And was dumbbell pressing them, but lifted his feet off the ground, had them swinging around, just look what I can do for giggles. And is doing 150s for reps, looking perfectly comfortable. I think I could probably do that with 75, 80, and I think I would need my feet under me. I don't think I could do that lifting my feet up, and that's insane weight.
It just got me thinking, would he ever come back for a little playoff run? Is it too late?
I don't know.
To get done, because he certainly looks like
clearly
he's in shape.
Still play. Yeah. I mean, could
you imagine just throwing him back on the Rams for the last 10 weeks?
Like the Brandon Graham. Yeah. Hey, we've got a couple of guys went down, and it's suddenly oh man, we pick up let's give Aaron Donald a call.
Forget it. Just spell Kobe Turner and Braden Fisk a little bit.
I mean, yeah.
Anyway,
it would be pretty insane.
That out there. It's going to be a great game. Sunday, 4:05. Rams are favored by 3 here at home. Over under 48.5. Where are you going to go with this one?
I'm going with the Seahawks. I'm buying into what we've seen the last few weeks, and I think that's for real.
My debate right now is between my preseason pick to win the division was Seattle.
Yeah.
Yours was the Rams. You're going against it. I think if we're saying there's a side of if there was an advantage on a side of the ball, I think it's Seattle's offense against the Rams defense. But I can't forget what they did to Darnold last year. That's where I'm torn on this. And so I want to say Seattle. Harry's taking Seattle. You're taking Seattle.
Yeah.
I put the Rams in the document.
Mm-hmm.
But winning by more than 3?
I think either one is – I mean, again, the idea that Darnold implodes is not off the table based off what happened to him last year.
All right. I'll stick with what I typed in, which is the Rams. But I don't love it. It's going to be a fun game, though.
Don't love any of the picks.
The other NFC West game. It's all NFC West this weekend. San Francisco 49ers at the Arizona Cardinals. Also Sunday at 4:05. Niners favored by 3 here. They're 6-4. Cardinals 3-6, coming off of getting wrecked by the Seattle Seahawks. Niners coming off of their loss last week. Anyway, against the Rams. The Niners, we might get Brock Purdy back. We're close with Brock Purdy. But Mac Jones has held the fort pretty well. Had a little Mac Jones discussion yesterday. But big game for the Niners to just stay in this thing in Arizona. Season hanging by a thread now after last week's loss.
Yeah, it is. I mean, they kind of to be expected, but they just don't have the kind of talent that the rest of the teams in this division have, I think, particularly not when guys are banged up and they've been missing some bodies in important areas.
Marvin Harrison Jr., appendicitis. He's missing this week, perhaps multiple weeks here. That's sad. That's always one of our favorite storylines, watching him emerge. He had started – I know they missed on a lot of targets last week, but you finally started to see some chemistry with him and Jacoby Brissett. I thought Arizona's defense – I mean, that's going to be the interesting side of the ball to me. I think they've done a really nice job overall this season. Had some issues last week. But again, that game got out of hand early on. They gave up some big plays, and then Seattle kind of leaned on them. Seattle. I'm like mixing up all these teams. Like who played whom last week? But anyway, 2 weeks ago did a really nice job against Dallas. I like Arizona's defense in this, and whether it's if it's Mac Jones, he's done a really nice job running that offense, getting the ball out. You're starting to see a little bit healthier group of playmakers. They did a nice job getting the ball to Juwan Jennings and George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey. So it's getting better as far as the playmakers go on that side of the ball. And then the Niners defense, still same issues. They can't create any kind of pressure, and questions up front with just general talent and, of course, all their injuries.
Yeah. The 49ers offense, I think, is still in really good shape. And that's why, as much as, we're this interminable, is Brock Purdy back or not this week debate every week, I don't think it really matters. I think Mac Jones, Brock Purdy, whoever's out there, they can cook with this offense. They've still got, Christian McCaffrey. They're getting the receiving weapons back. George Kittle was spectacular last week. They're able to cook regardless of who's out there. It's the defense that's the problem. It's like now the defense was already extremely lightweight and thin despite having two of the best players in the NFL on that side of the ball. Well, those guys are both gone now, and they're not coming back this season. So now you're just left with a bunch of guys who can't really hold up. That's the issue. It's like I expect San Francisco's offense to do well against Arizona's defense, to have some success, to move the ball, to put up some points. Now the question becomes, can they get any pressure on Jacoby Brissett? Can they stop anything on that side of the ball? Because that's going to determine how close this game is.
And it feels like one of those games where if you looked at the Niners season and some of their close wins, including against Arizona, some of their close wins, and Arizona, their close losses, right? Like their 5 out of their 6 close losses are by 10 total points or whatever the ridiculous number is. A lot of the advanced stuff would say these teams are a lot closer than their records would show. It's not Bill Parcells here. You are what your record is. You're somewhere in between 6-4 and 3-6, both of these teams. So, feels like Niners are favored by 3, but kind of like Arizona in this game, despite them getting waxed last week.
Maybe. Yeah, I'm curious to see what their offense will look like without Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, last week it was all, let's throw him the ball all the time. Do they just load up Trey McBride now as the only target left standing that they have confidence in? Like he's going to get 25 targets in this game. Jacoby to McBride is going to be it. And then whatever they get on the ground. The 49ers offensive line is still, reasonably problematic. It's definitely the weakest part of that offense as a collective. And Arizona have got pass rush. Walter Nolan, we talked about, went out of the game last week with a knee injury. Looked pretty bad. Apparently isn't. So he was a limited participant in practice. I think they're going to get him back for the game. Walter Nolan could do damage. That's an important player to get back in this game. We might also be witnessing this year, is this the end for Trent Richardson? He's definitely taken a step back this season. He's still moving. Trent Williams. Trent Richardson, in the end, was quite some time ago.
I think he's done.
Trent Williams, the best left tackle of his generation, I guess. Still moves like a cat, but has definitely been taking a huge step back in terms of how much he's given up, when he's getting beat. You would go into a game normally being like, there's no way anybody in Arizona gets any joy out of Trent Williams. Not the case anymore.
And you've made the point, too, with the Niners not only banged up in the defensive front, but, second level, linebacker level, and with Marvin Harrison Jr. out, is this a 15-target game for Trey McBride? And
by the way, 4 out of the 5 offensive linemen for San Francisco have given up 20-plus pressures already. That's a lot. Yeah,
and honestly, not to get into the Mac Jones discussion again, but Purdy was under some pressure when he was playing.
Yeah.
Mac Jones he's taken a lot of hits. He's played through injury. Like Mac Jones has been extremely impressive.
Mm-hmm.
I just think overall Brock Purdy has elevated that offense more during his career. But the point you made yesterday, if it's only he's got the turf toe injury, which he came back for 1 week, re-aggravated it. It's a high re-aggravation type of injury. And if part of what's made Purdy really good is his scrambling ability. I always felt like we've seen some incredible scramblers over the last decade or so come into the league. Of course, the way Mahomes plays, Lamar, Josh Allen, but then you have like a Jaden Daniels who's been incredible at that. Jackson Dart showing what he could do. There was a point for a couple year and a half stretch or whatever, like Purdy's right there with those guys as far as a pound for pound scrambling ability. I thought he had a really good feel for when to run, when to throw, being that, what was the joke, like 1 mile an hour faster than the guy chasing you. Like Purdy's got that to his game, and that's what's helped elevate the Shanahan offense, right? He does the color by numbers, and he adds some out of structure stuff, both throwing and running. If Purdy doesn't have that, then yeah, Mac Jones probably runs the offense as well as Purdy because he's not bringing that extra mobility piece to it.
Yeah, well, in particular, whether or not it's the scrambling to then throw. It's the extending a play that he's really good at, the being able to just buy time back there and find a play late in the down, as opposed to, we tend to think of scrambling now as running the football, taking off and turning a pass play into a run play with that scramble. But I think Purdy's scrambling ability is that old Russell Wilson style of run around, buy some time, find a pass late in the down that wasn't where the play was designed to go. Either way, yeah, you need him, like he needs to be able to run on that toe. So I'm not even thinking about putting him back in the lineup unless you're telling me he's 100% good to go. This idea of like, oh, he's close, it's 90%, well, then leave it. Mac Jones is fine. He's doing really well. You don't need to rush Brock Purdy back into this lineup. I agree with you that, look, overall, a healthy Brock Purdy has demonstrated a higher ceiling to his game and within this offense than Mac Jones has. But right now, Mac Jones is the 11th graded quarterback at PFF. You don't need to rush this. Like, you don't need to, 90. What's the line? Do we put him in at 92%? Like, just leave him be. Tell me when he's 100%. Otherwise, don't interrupt me with Brock Purdy updates.
Which might not happen.
Yeah,
season.
exactly.
Might not be fully healthy.
But this, like, stop asking. I don't like if I'm Shanahan, I'm like, to the doctors, drop me a note when he's 100% good to go. Otherwise, I don't want to know. I'm good with Mac Jones. He's doing
the
fine.
Mac Jones wave.
Yeah, just knock on my door when Brock Purdy's actually healthy.
All right, man. Sunday, 4:05. Niners favored by 3. Where are you going to go with this one?
I'm going to go with the 49ers to win and cover on the road.
I'm taking Arizona. Harry's going to go with the Niners. Taking Arizona, coming off that bad one against Seattle last week. All right, quick break to talk about today's sponsor. It's IM8. Hard to keep up with every NFL game. We lose track of sleep, go live at 7 a.m. every Monday, but it's hard to keep our energy levels up. But that's where IM8's daily ultimate essentials come in. It's a daily all-in-one wellness drink that gives my body the support it needs without juggling a bunch of different supplements. It's been co-founded by David Beckham, crafted with insight from experts at Mayo Clinic, Cedars-Sinai, and a former NASA chief scientist. It simplifies your wellness routine and makes it easier to support your health. Drinking it live here on the show as we go. That's how I stay focused for 3 straight hours. Drink's loaded with 92 nutrient-rich ingredients. It's designed to help you feel good from the inside out. And what makes IM8 stand out is how it combines science with nature. So they use effective ingredients backed by research. Plus, it's been through clinical trials where 95% of participants felt more energetic and 85% said their digestion improved. It's vegan, gluten-free, and non-GMO. It's also NSF certified, which means all the ingredients are third-party tested for purity. You can feel confident about what you're putting into your body, making it a solid choice if you're focused on your health.
Yeah, I was just reading the tasting notes now from the box. A delightful blend with earthy undertones, subtle tartness, and a hint of chocolate.
I felt the tartness and the hint of chocolate right there.
Culminating in a smooth acai and mixed berries finish.
It's good, man. I was impressed with the taste. And we have a couple different versions. The welcome package was outstanding. There was a note from David Beckham in there.
Yeah.
It's really well done. High class. So we've enjoyed our time with IM8, and so I'm drinking it during the show.
Sir David Beckham to you.
Oh, sir. That's right. We went through that yesterday. Sir David Beckham. Don't want to insult the man.
No.
Feel your best self every day with IM8. Go to im8health.com/CTM and use code CTM for a free welcome kit. 5 free travel sachets plus 10% off your order. So the sachets, they're in here. Look. This one's
sealed.
Yeah. Show them the sachets.
They're both
I
sealed.
am the number 8 HEALTH.com/CTM. Code CTM for a free welcome kit. 5 free travel sachets plus 10% off your order. im8health.com/CTM. Code CTM. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Those are still sealed, huh?
They are, yes.
All right. Well,
So I'm not going to open them right now.
I mean, they just look like sachets.
Yeah.
Classed up, too.
Sachets
For some of us. All right, a couple other monster games to discuss on Sunday, and some bad ones. Kansas City Chiefs at the Denver Broncos. This gets the 4:25 window on Sunday. Chiefs are favored by 3.5 here on the road. Over-under is 44.5. Chiefs are coming off a bye. Broncos coming off a mini bye. After their 10-7 win against the Raiders on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah. I mean, this obviously the most interesting thing in this game is the best pass rush in the NFL in the Denver Broncos going up against Kansas City. The Chiefs offense as a whole, but specifically how that offensive line holds up, how Patrick Mahomes negates that rush with everything that he does. I mean, that's the thing to watch.
So much on the line here when we talk about the stakes of the Seattle Rams game, the stakes of this game. 8-2 Broncos. They have not had a bye yet, so they've played 10 games. The Chiefs, as I said, coming off their bye, they're 5-4. A win from Denver here puts them, 3.5 games up on the Chiefs. 3.5 on the Kansas City Chiefs, who have won this division for, 9 straight years, whatever it is. So it's a huge game in Denver. We did not get to see Mahomes play in Denver last year because it was the Week 18 game where the Chiefs had already clinched. They played all their backups. Denver needed to win, and they played against their backups. Bo Nix had 4 touchdowns, no picks. And every time I see Bo Nix counting stats, I think about that game in my head as like a freebie. But so we didn't get to see Mahomes and the Chiefs play in Denver last year. So that's going to be a fun matchup. And then overall, like you said, the pass rush of Denver, Nick Bonito, all of the quick pressures, the league leader in quick pressures, and Zach Allen, Jonathan Cooper, that entire pass rush creating havoc up front. When these teams did play in Kansas City last year, it was, I thought, for all the negativity surrounding Bo Nix after his last game, I was very impressed with how Bo Nix last year led what should have been a game-winning drive against Spags' defense in the fourth quarter. And then they had a field goal blocked. Like, they were in position to win the game, and Kansas City blocked a field goal. That was one of those, hey, how is Kansas City winning all of these close games last year? They blocked a field goal. The Raiders dropped a snap. They had a 4th and 25 pass interference. Like, they had all these things go their way to win these one-score games.
Yeah.
Now this year, they're not going their way for Kansas City. Does that even out? I think we're going to learn a lot in this game. It's going to be close. I think it's going to be a close game.
It should be. I think Denver's defense has shown it's so good. I mean, the pass rush is insane. The Chiefs' offensive line is solid, but it's not amazing. Like, you can't imagine a world where they completely lock down and negate this pass rush entirely. You've got that Chiefs offensive skill position group, which is pretty formidable at this point. They don't run the ball tremendously well against that defensive front, I wouldn't imagine is a huge threat. So it's going to be Mahomes and that receiving group against Denver's back end. And then the other side of the ball, you've got this inconsistency that is Bo Nix and the Denver offense. Like, they have weapons. They've got players that can make an impact. And Bo Nix has stretches where he's able to do amazing work and, create all kinds of chaos. It just doesn't happen all the time.
The weekly Bo Nix discourse. He's great. He's not great. It's like he's probably just somewhere in the middle. That's okay. That's okay. He's coming off of a rough game the other day, last week against the Raiders. I know it was windy. It was, the offense had their challenges. The offense has had their challenges several times in several games in the first 3 quarters. I don't think they could play that game if you're Denver. I don't think you could play this. Let's just, win it in the fourth quarter. They almost have as many points in the fourth quarter as they have in the first 3 quarters combined.
It's crazy.
It's a wild number. It's not exactly 1-to-1, but it's, close enough that it's significant to say, like, why can't you find this rhythm in the first 3 quarters, and what happens in the fourth quarter to, either play either freer or you dial up the best plays or whatever it might be. They've done a great job making comebacks against the Eagles, against the Giants. We've seen a lot of that, fourth quarter magic. I think for Denver to win, they have to do what Buffalo did a couple weeks ago. The last time we saw the Chiefs, they got Buffalo's best. They had Buffalo did a really nice job mixing up the run and pass, keeping Kansas City off balance, using their tight ends, exploiting their linebackers, as you were saying. I think that's where Sean Payton comes in here as a play caller. I think he's still a very good play caller. And, remember last year he got more creative down the stretch. Marvin Mims as a wide receiver was moving around, using him in the backfield. They were creating those mismatches. I think that's going to be a key in this game. If they can exploit the Chiefs linebackers in coverage, they're just going to have to play a cleaner game overall. Might see a little bit more R.J. Harvey running the ball. And so trying to figure out that balance and putting Bo Nix in position to succeed. And Bo's just got to hit some of the open throws.
Yeah.
He's had open throws. I mean, why is the discourse all over the place? He's had good throws and good scrambles, and he's had a lot of touchdowns in his year and a half as a starter, and he misses a lot of open ones. And a lot of times it's like, man, you can see uneasiness in the pocket with his footwork, and he's got to clean that up. So if there are open throws, he's got to hit them. And the challenge with Spags defense is there's usually not a ton of open throws down the field, so they got to get creative to find those mismatches.
That's the thing. There have been open throws in basically every game. And look, it's not always Bo Nix. Like sometimes Troy Franklin will drop one, right? Like it's collectively they're just not making all the plays that are there, but they are there basically every game. Like it's too talented a team. They will have open throws. Bo Nix has got the arm to make it wherever he needs to get it. Cortland Sutton is regularly open. Troy Franklin is almost always open deep. Marvin Mims, like they got the playmakers. And most of the time, it's, I think, Bo Nix missing those throws. But occasionally it's, Troy dropping one. But like that stat that we brought out before, the Bo Nix to Troy Franklin connection deep for two guys who, remember, were college teammates. It's not like these are guys that have never met before and there's no chemistry and it's just not working. These are guys that were college teammates and extremely dynamic and potent as a combination at Oregon, have connected like twice in a year and a half on deep throws. And they're there every game. It's like at some point that needs to connect.
I've seen a lot of people calling for Cortland Sutton to get more targets. And even as two of the bigger Troy Franklin supporters here, with so many targets going his way over the last, 3 or 4 games, I do agree, like, getting Cortland Sutton involved a bit more, and especially in this game. I always say Spags defense, because they play so much man coverage, because they pair that with the blitz scheme and everything, you don't have time to get open, or it's just tough to create separation against their corners. So you're going to have to win in contested situations. Like, does feel like a game where you got to give Cortland Sutton some opportunities to make some special plays. And maybe feeding Troy Franklin 8 to 10 targets isn't actually the best deployment of Franklin. Let him run the deep stuff, let him run the vertical routes, but I think Sutton's got to make some plays if you're the Broncos in this one.
Yeah, he does. I mean, again, that offense just needs to be a more efficient group than it's been so far. Like that stat of it's been a fourth quarter team, I don't think that's a repeatable skill. Like I don't think you can just muddle your way through 3 quarters and then turn it on in the fourth. I think that's noise. I think that's just a freaky collection of games that they've run this year. And if it's not real, if it's not a thing that is repeatable week on week on week, which is more likely to happen, their fourth quarter heroics stop happening or they get it together for the first 3 quarters of a game. It feels like it's more likely that the fourth quarter magic disappears than it is that they just click the rest of the game. So that's the concern for Denver. This defense you have no fear of at all. It's dominant. It's fantastic. It's the best pass rush in the NFL. But I think like this is a team that's top of the division, trying to establish itself as a true contender. And I think there's a risk that the offense actually goes the other way than it gets itself together and sort of shows that it's ready to be a contender.
I want to talk Chiefs offense against Broncos defense, but while we're talking about the Broncos offense, the Bills, I mean, this happens when you have the team in dynasty territory. The Patriots of 20 years would always get the opposing team's best for the most part, and you could easily make that argument like teams bring their best against the Chiefs. The Bills just showed it, right? They played this near-perfect game 2 weeks ago and then lay an egg against Miami the following week. There's that aspect too. I mean, Denver, if you look high level at the fact that the AFC West has invested in Sean Payton as a head coach. They traded for Sean Payton, the investment to bring him in, to bring in a Jim Harbaugh with the Chargers, to try to bring Pete Carroll in, even though it hasn't worked for the Raiders. That whole division's making these aggressive moves to try to knock off the Chiefs. And so, like I used to say about the Kirk Cousins, like this is the game you pay Kirk Cousins all that money for. Like this is the game. This is why you brought in Sean Payton. And if the Broncos treat this like their Super Bowl, and you could argue It's not, but it's close to it. Like the implications of this aren't just you can win the division. You have a chance to legitimately put the Chiefs' playoff hopes on the ropes, right? If they're 5-5, they really can't slip up more than once for the rest of the year, and you play them again, right? So that's how significant this is. Not only can you put yourself ahead in the division, like huge distance between yourself and the Chiefs for the division, you have a chance. I'm not saying the Chiefs aren't going to make the playoffs if they lose this game, but their playoff hopes dwindle big time with the loss here. The difference between them being 6-4 and 5-5. So say all that to say, does Sean Payton dial up the good stuff?
Yeah.
Right? Is this an extra couple trick plays? You can't do surprise onside kicks like you did in the Super Bowl anymore, but is this the game you've got fake punts? Like, is this the type of game you literally pull it all out, especially the way the offense is playing, and say, look, if we just hit on a couple of these trick plays, then we're gonna, that's what we're gonna go for it. And Sean Payton's aggressive by nature in everything that he does, play calling, team building. He's very aggressive. So I just think that's another interesting dynamic and storyline in this is how Sean Payton and the offense treat this game, given some of their offensive woes and what's at stake. It is as big of a regular season game as the Broncos have played, since their Super Bowl season.
Yeah, and look, I think this Denver team really wants it to be, if they're going to make the playoffs, they really want to be playing home playoff games. I mean,
Yes.
Mile High is an advantage. Mile High is where they want to be playing. They don't want to have to go on the road. It's less, to me, the implications of victory and more the implications of defeat if they don't win. It's like if you don't win this game, Kansas City closes to within 2, plus they play you again, and all of a sudden you're like, you might not be in control of the division. The Chargers could win. Everything starts to get a little bit sketchier for a team that probably doesn't have like 100% total confidence in what they are yet. So I think that it's more like the threat of if you lose to Kansas City, they sort of shown they're still the big guys, even if their game's back and, you're not in control. Whereas if you go and establish, no, we're the team, we're going to win this division, we're going to host home playoff games. And oh, by the way, you guys have got work to do to even make it to the playoffs. Yeah, it's a huge game.
I want to talk other side of the ball here. So Josh Simmons, Chiefs offense. Josh Simmons was back at practice after over a month being away for personal reasons. Mm-hmm. It's still not positive if he's going to play or not. Nobody actually knows why he was away,
right?
What he was doing. Was he staying in football shape?
Nobody on the outside, anyway.
No one on the outside, right? The Chiefs obviously know. But I don't know if they are revealing whether or not he's going to play. If Jalen Moore is at left tackle, that's a mismatch in favor of Benito and the Broncos. If Josh Simmons is there, it's still probably a mismatch. He's still a rookie and hasn't played in a while. But it could be an upgrade. The thing I would keep an eye on here and what the Chiefs do extremely well, and I know Mahomes faced a lot of pressure against the Bills, but if you watch that game, there's a few plays where the Bills win up front, but a lot of it was either Mahomes not pulling the trigger on a first read or first read's not there and he's scrambling and it's like later pressure. Denver does that well. We talked about the mesh of coverage and pass rush. But the Chiefs also historically do a really good job, even though there are those games like the Super Bowl, they got wrecked up front. They do a really good job of keeping rushers off balance. And if Andy Reid gets that rhythm early, screen here, screen there, the rollout game, we know when they get into 3rd and 4th and short, they'll roll Mahomes out quite a bit. I would say Mahomes scrambling in this game is going to be pretty key. If that first read isn't there, he might just be looking for an escape route and might be one of those games where he scrambles 8 times for 60 yards, and that ends up becoming a huge difference in the game. And then I would keep an eye on what they did on 4th and 17. If they had pulled off the win, I think this play would get a lot more credit. An incredible play call 2 weeks ago against the Bills. They did. I was talking to a quarterback the other day. He called it the run and shoot drop back. Remember the old run and shoot drop backs where the quarterbacks, like the righties, would drop back like they were a lefty? Do you remember seeing those? Like Warren Moon.
No.
During Houston, instead of dropping back facing to the right, they would drop back backwards and then spin around to throw. That was how he dropped back.
The old Mike Martz thing, they used to drop back vertically.
They went straight back. Like Cutler would do some of that.
Yeah.
But this was like Mahomes would turn, like he was dropping back like he was left-handed and then spun back to the right. And on that play, they basically faked the sprint out left, faked the sprint out right, and then he just sat in the pocket. I say all that to say they have creative ways to keep pass rushers off balance and help protect their blockers. And they pulled that out on 4th and long a couple weeks ago. I would just keep an eye on the creativity on 3rd and long. If they get into 3rd and long, where Mahomes has been so special throughout most of his career, what do they dial up? How do they do that? How do they mitigate the pass rush, the 5-man pressures that Denver can throw at them through different ways of moving the pocket, fake move in the pocket? They've been creative, and we talk a lot about Kansas City saving the good stuff for the playoffs, and there's elements of that are true. They're running out of time, right? The as big as this game is for Denver, it is going both ways, right? They can't afford to fall to 5-5. So I think Kansas City, coming off their bye, breaks out some of the good stuff to try to mitigate the pass rush, and I think that's going to be a huge key on 3rd down.
Yeah. Another game, it's always fun to focus on Riley Moss, who remains he's one of the most aggressively targeted corners in the NFL, whether or not Patrick Surtain is in the lineup, and yet performs really well when attacked. Like, he's allowing a low completion rate. He's allowing pretty good numbers overall. Riley Moss is a good player, and for some reason, the NFL just relentlessly fires the ball in his direction.
I'm a little sad there's no Patrick Surtain.
Yeah.
I mean, that would look, Denver's defenses look great even without him the last game and a half, but that would be pretty significant if you had Surtain and his ability to, say, take out a Xavier Worthy or try to match a Rashee Rice. So that is something to keep an eye on as well. The last couple numbers I just want to throw out there before we make picks. Kansas City against 5+ rushers. Remember, there was years like, don't blitz Mahomes, don't send the extra rushers. Yeah. He's always got answers. Well, this year, they're 23rd in yards per pass, 18th in success rate, and 25th in pressure allowed. It hasn't been as clean. And Denver's one of those teams that can win with the 4-man rush, but when they bring 5, like it is, they're bringing havoc when they bring 5. Like they pick their spots, and that might be a key to this game. They're number 1 when they send 5+. Denver's defense, 4.3 yards per pass. Thank you, 33rd team. And I mentioned earlier, Nick Bonito's quick pressures, 17 pressures in under 2.5 seconds. That's number 1 in the NFL. So their pass rush going up against Kansas City's defense is going to be a big part of this.
Yeah. I wonder if, not just getting pressure, but can they actually finish those plays and get Mahomes to the ground? That's a big part of always when you're facing Patrick Mahomes. He's so good at escaping and getting out of those plays. And, I think Nick Bonito, I think they're going to get quick pressure because they typically do, but that's not enough for Mahomes. Like, some of the biggest plays he makes are on those plays where it breaks down, he escapes. Like, you've got to get him down.
What do you do as a pass rusher? Because he's difficult to tackle.
Yep. And
obviously elusive. And so are you trying to keep him in the pocket? This is where I say, like, teams do a really good job of, I thought the Bills did a really good job with their pass rush integrity. Well, Denver doesn't always do a good job with pass rush integrity. They just swarm and they collapse the pocket from all sides. If they let Mahomes break free, we could see some big plays. If they get him to the ground, of course, that's great. But if they try to get him to the ground too much, opens yourself up. So I think that balance of how you want to rush, I think, is going to be another big part for Denver. Mm-hmm. Fun game, man. 4:25. Nance and Romo on the call, I'm sure. Chiefs by 3.5. You surprised that they're favored here by that much on the road?
Yeah, a little bit. I guess, Vegas, the man in Vegas, still has faith in the Chiefs. I get it in terms of I have very little confidence in Denver's offense just getting itself together for any period of time. And the most recent game we saw from them was pretty ugly. But that defense, I think, will do real damage.
All right, let's make a pick here. I'm back and forth on this one. Where are you going to go?
Going with Denver to cover and at least keep it closer than that and maybe even, win at home.
Yeah, it's the 3.5 that's getting me. So I'll take Denver because of that. Harry's going to take Kansas City. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if Mahomes plays one of his best games of the year. It's not season on the line, but again, there's a lot on the line in this game for a mid-season matchup. It's going to be fun. I'll take Denver, though, just because it does feel like a big line for a really good Denver team and the way their defense is playing. And they beat Kansas City a couple of years ago with Russell Wilson. Like they've played well. They've matched up well against the Chiefs as well, which I think is a factor. The matchup has been close. Broncos Chiefs when they've played. Mm-hmm. Harry's going to take Kansas City in this one. The other one, huge game. Sunday Night Football. Detroit Lions at the Philadelphia Eagles. It's Sunday night, 8:20. Lions favored by 2.5 here. They're 6-3, going up against the 7-2 Eagles, sitting at the number 1 seed in the NFC. Over/under is 46.5 from FanDuel. And this is the game, Sam. We didn't get to see it live. We waited all season to see this game last year. Did not get to see it. 2 powerhouses last year, but Detroit got upset.
Washington robbed us of it, or Detroit did. Turning the ball over 5 times or whatever it was.
So we finally get to see it. It would have been in Philadelphia last year anyway. So we do get to see that Sunday Night Football. Should be fun.
This is the NFC Championship game that was supposed to be last year, and it wasn't. I mean, that part of it's fun. I think both teams, Detroit certainly have absolutely pulled themselves together after a couple of weird games here or there. Philadelphia, really strange game that they played most recently, but both teams are still absolutely legit. I mean, look at it's more muddled this year than it was, but Philadelphia 7-2, Detroit 6-3. They're both sitting atop their respective divisions. Philadelphia don't really have a contender in theirs. Dallas and Washington each have 3 wins, but the NFC North is wide open. The John Daly Chicago Bears are sitting there right with Detroit. Yeah, 2 legit powerhouse teams, and we finally get to see the matchup.
No significant weather here in Philly on Sunday night. It should be in the 40s. Wind 10 to 20 miles an hour from my app here, so I don't know if that ends up becoming a factor. But nothing significant there. But I'm interested in the style of play that we get here, right? I think Philly can win any kind of game, but I think you're better off getting into a shootout with the Eagles. Is that fair? Like, if you could choose, like, hey, if we knew this game was going to be 30-27, or like last week, 10-7, I feel like Detroit's more comfortable playing in the shootout, and Philly would be less comfortable playing in a shootout. And I say that knowing, go back to that Rams game earlier this year, the Eagles were down, 26-7, came back to win. They can win. I still think the Eagles can win any style, but they feel like because of the inconsistencies of their offense throughout this year, their offense has straight up disappeared for periods of the game. It's actually very similar to Denver, who, by the way, they lost to because their offense disappeared. Very similar to Denver, this Philly offense. They go through these lulls, and I think if Detroit can keep their foot on the gas, and it's not easy, they're going up against Vic Fangio's defense, which has been fantastic. But if Detroit can turn this into a shootout, I think that's their preferred game flow here.
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles have not demonstrated really this season that they can really be comfortable in those high-octane, shootout type of games. They tend to do well, even when they put up points. It's sort of inconsistent, and they get a couple of huge plays from some of their playmakers. But I don't think stylistically they're anywhere near as comfortable as the Lions are in just this like college-esque back and forth, monster scoring type of performance. One thing that's interesting in this game, the Eagles' entire offensive line basically is on the injury report at the moment. They're all dealing with something. Now, I would imagine almost all of them are going to play. Maybe Juergens will get back at center. But Lane Johnson, remember, left the Packers game with an ankle injury before coming back. Still just an elite caliber left tackle. Landon Dickerson has missed time this season. He's dealing with a quad. Tyler Steen has got an oblique injury that he's on the injury report with. So the majority of the offensive line is at least dealing with something, and going up against this Lions pass rush that's pretty formidable. Lane Johnson against Aiden Hutchinson just as a matchup is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Lane Johnson, if he's dealing with an ankle injury, that's a tough handicap to be dealing with if you're going up against Aiden Hutchinson.
I'm looking at the way Detroit played last week. I think there's a little bit of fool's gold there against Washington's defense, right?
I mean, Washington's defense is terrible. So, yeah.
It is.
It's not a false positive because I think the Lions can do that, but it's definitely you played the game on easy mode.
The thing they do well, though, is have all those playmakers, have all that speed, give them opportunities, but the Eagles have the right answers to that, right? I mean, they've got good corners. I love the way the Eagles have invested, or at least found good players at linebacker the last couple of years with Jahad Campbell, Nakobe Dean, Zach Bond. So they have linebackers that can hang with Sam Laporta, theoretically with, handle the run against David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. Gibbs out of the backfield. Campbell's going to be really interesting. He's, probably the most athletic. Him and Bond, really athletic in coverage. Can they handle Gibbs out of the backfield? Like, as soon as Gibbs ran that angle route against Washington, it's
game over.
Yeah, it's easy. But like, the Eagles have good matchups for Detroit's weapons. I still think Detroit overall, their aggressiveness, Dan Campbell's pass expectancy was higher. In other words, they were throwing the ball on running downs a lot more last week against Washington than they had the rest of the season. It's like a little tweak where maybe Detroit was getting a little bit too run heavy even for them, and they were a little bit more aggressive last week, and I wonder if that's going to be the way to go with Philadelphia here. So there's so much fun to watch here. I do think other side of the ball, though, if the Eagles are banged up on the offensive line, and they have been so inconsistent with their running game this year, nothing like last year with Saquon Barkley, where he's breaking off a 60-yarder every 2 weeks. You haven't had the explosiveness there.
And it's still there for him. I mean, we saw that against Green Bay. They give him a little swing pass. He, spins out of a tackle from Valentine, bombs down the line, and that's the difference in the game. Honestly, that play and the one that came right after it to Devontae Smith, it's not like Saquon Barkley is dealing with this, season-to-season hangover that you get sometimes where running backs get the monster load, or most of the time where they get the monster workload. Saquon still looks explosive, still looks dynamic, still looks capable of taking any play to the house. It's just the gap isn't there the way it was.
By the way, I did misspeak on the line. It is Philly by 2.5, not the Lions by 2.5 here. So the home team, Eagles favorite. It makes sense, right? We're talking about two fairly evenly matched teams. I love comparing it to last year because I think they were both – Detroit was banged up on their defense last year quite a bit, but their offense wasn't.
Right.
And so I think we would have seen two relatively healthy teams in that game. Now we've got both offensive lines banged up and dealing with some turnover. Like, it's not – I don't think they feel as juggernauty as they did last year, both teams.
No, neither of them I think is
good.
as good as I feel like they were a year ago. But
yeah.
But again, I feel like the Lions are closer. Like, this is a team that I think it feels closer to last year's version now than the Eagles do. The Eagles just, like, everything just doesn't feel great between the offensive line all dealing with injuries. By the way, the other offensive lineman on the injury report, but only because he's coming back, is Willie Lampkin.
Willie Lampkin.
There might be a tiny sliver of a window where before Cam Jurgens gets back, like, Willie might have 5 minutes of action where Brett Toth gets hurt, and Willie's the guy off the bench before Jurgens gets back and he takes the seat in the bench again. I just want to see that guy play.
Get
anyway.
him in the tush-push.
Well, there's that as well, yeah.
Get him at fullback.
But at center, you might actually get him on the field briefly before Jurgens gets back.
Get Willie Lampkin out there.
But between the offensive line all dealing with injuries, this A.J. Brown stuff, where he's just constantly taking pot shots at the team, and they can't go anywhere now. Like, the trade deadline's done. They can't, even if they wanted to, they can't really get rid of him now. So you've got some degree of unhappy A.J. Brown sitting there doing nothing production-wise while Devontae Smith gets big play. It's not working the way it did previously.
The A.J. Brown thing, because this happened last year too. He was reading the book on the sideline, and they still won the Super Bowl, right? So we talk about this stuff as a distraction a lot. I don't know if A.J. Brown being upset about the offense being bad for chunks of time is a distraction, so much as he's frustrated that his side of the ball looks bad, not so much like, I need my 10 catches. So I don't know if it's actually a distraction. I honestly think it's more informative of maybe Jalen Hurts' style of play, where you just, again, he's been tied to a lot of these offensive lulls, right? So Jalen Hurts, Bo Nix, every quarterback takes all this criticism. I think Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback overall. I think his running ability brings a special dynamic to what the Eagles do. I think he's been extremely clutch, and he does have this knack for doing just enough to win, right? You can win ugly, and he's won in shootouts before where he's had to make plays down the field. But he's not going to like get in no huddle and, march down the field 8 straight plays and picking the defense apart, go quick game, go deep ball. It's different. It's a different style of pass game. And I think because you're not attacking the field through the air at every level, the way you should. Middle of the field hasn't been great, hasn't been attacked. It leaves some holes. Am I describing that okay? Like there's Hurts is good overall, but there's something in the style that leads to these slumps or lulls within a game offensively. And I think that's where the frustration is coming from.
Yeah, I mean, the concern, I think, it's not that the production hasn't really been there for A.J. Brown. Like, there have been, again, because Hurts is this type of quarterback, there have been times in the past where the production has disappeared and, everybody's had lean stretches within this offense. And then it clicks again and something – the thing I think that's concerning, number one, the fact that it seems to be as bad as it's ever been in terms of A.J. Brown's frustration level. And that I just don't think is a good thing for any wide receiver. Like, once they get to a certain degree of critical mass of just being pissed off, that's probably not good for anybody. Particularly, again, when there's nothing you can do about it, as in he's there, right? You can't trade him away even if you wanted to, all those types of things. It's the fact that they're not actually – we've talked before about Nick Sirianni's quite a squeaky wheel type of coach. When things are going bad, he tends to – or whatever, if he'll try and address that with play calling. They're not throwing the ball at A.J. Brown, right? Like, his targets have disappeared. Early in the season, he was getting, 10, 9, 8. He's still getting – the ball was going his way quite a lot, even if he wasn't getting the production. Now that's not even happening, right? The last 3 targets, 6 targets, like, we're not seeing them try and fix this. We're not seeing them try and go after A.J. Brown. And as much as, look, Devontae Smith is playing really well right now, and he deserves the targets he's getting. I feel like there are plays you could just, let's just throw the ball at A.J. Brown. I mean, so much of their production in the past has been A.J. Brown is 6'2", 225 pounds, and bigger, stronger, faster, and better than the guy covering him. Yep. Give him a chance. So now more than ever, he's frustrated, he's annoyed. Throw him a ball and see what happens.
And that includes, he's the type of guy that can take a slant 40 yards.
Exactly. Like, manufacture the guy some targets.
That's what I mean. Like, it's not just the vertical routes. And again, I think the Eagles offense gets into, we're either taking a low percentage shot down the field. And in a game like the Giants, the Vikings game a couple weeks ago, he hits all of them.
Yeah.
And averages like 15 yards per completion, Hurts. But it's low percentage. Or it's like screens, right? It was like the old Chip Kelly offense. It's like, we're going screen or we're going deep, and there's no short and intermediate game. And I think that's what they're missing. And I think that's what A.J. Brown's feeling.
Yeah.
Right? Like, when you watch the way Jamar Chase is used for the Bengals, you're like, they're giving him screens. He's got underneath stuff, drags and slants, and he's got his vertical passes. And, like, you're attacking every level of the field, and the defense doesn't know where they have to cover Jamar Chase. You're not feeling that with A.J. Brown. So, look, I don't think it's a distraction and that affects him. I think it's not the distraction. It's the inconsistent offense that's the issue. I do wonder if it comes to a head. Howie's got no problem being bold. A.J. Brown still has a ton of value. I do wonder if in the offseason they try to trade him and they recoup a ton of value and replenish the receiving core. I wouldn't hate that as a move.
I think
for
that's
the Eagles.
Closer to reality. Yeah,
I agree. But they won a Super Bowl with the very same A.J. Brown, with not as inconsistent of an offense, but they still had their lulls last year. Like, they can still win with what they have here and with A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts.
The inconsistency is less concerning to me than how they are addressing or not addressing the inconsistency. Like, they are manufacturing some touches for Devontae Smith. They don't appear to be doing it for A.J. Brown. And I say this, like, even though, late in the game on 4th down against Green Bay, they took a shot at A.J. Brown for no particular reason. Like, they have shown random plays where they'll fire him the ball. But, like, against Green Bay, they're putting Devontae Smith in motion to get him one-on-one on one side and throwing him a quick pass, even though he's blanket covered on that play. Meanwhile, the other side of the field, A.J. Brown is effectively isolated against off coverage. Like, it's 2nd and 5, throw A.J. Brown the ball. He might beat the off coverage, and then he's off to the races. I don't understand why they've gone away from A.J. Brown so hard. I don't think this is somebody whose play has fallen off a cliff, and that's why he's not seeing the ball anymore, and consequently he's frustrated. I think for some reason they're just not throwing him the football, and they probably should.
Last thing, Nick Sirianni versus Dan Campbell. The overall dynamic. Sirianni he was one of the first coaches being really aggressive on 4th down. It's been an Eagles thing since Doug Peterson and then Sirianni. So there was a level of aggressiveness that Sirianni brought to the table. We know what Dan Campbell's done on fourth down. We do all this analysis. We talk matchups and the whole deal, and it's going to come down to who converts their fourth downs, right? That's what it's going to come down to. So just something else to keep an eye on that's going to be tons of fun, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, a huge amount of variance comes in a game like this where you've got the Eagles and their tush-push stuff. You've got the fact that the Lions are aggressive on fourth down. We've also got a much bigger test for Dan Campbell, offensive genius, as opposed to Washington. I wanted to mention, by the way, Nakobe Dean. What a comeback story for him.
Yeah.
I kind of feared that his effective career in the NFL might have been done based off bad injury that he got, plus the fact that the Eagles drafted Jahad Campbell, a more athletically gifted, higher drafted linebacker. You're like, I mean, that might be it for Nakobe Dean in this defense. Meanwhile, he's come back and he's like immediately straight into the lineup and cooking and getting a ton of snaps the last few weeks and looking really good doing it. I mean, Nakobe Dean looks back, and Nakobe Dean, he might not have the athletic gifts a lot of these linebackers do. I mean, the dude is small. Like, you see him walking around. When we were at the Super Bowl, and he's at like the opening night thing and just mixing around with, like, he's my size, albeit heavier, but he's not big. Meanwhile, this guy's out there looking like an instinctive linebacker, knows where the play is going, gets there, makes the tackle. Like, love seeing him back and making plays.
It's going to be a fun one. Sunday night, it is Philly favored by 2.5 here, over under 44.5 per FanDuel. Where are you going to go with this one?
I'm going to go with the Lions because I do believe that they are closer to their old selves than the Eagles are.
I'm back and forth on it. I'll take Philly, I guess. Philly to pull it off at home. I don't think the Lions are bad on the road. They're just better in the dome. I think that could be a factor. Like, if I would probably flip. If this was in the dome, the line would flip. I'd probably feel better about the Lions. I still think if they would rather play a shootout, and I think it might be tough to do that against Philly. So I'll take the Eagles. Harry's going to take the Lions here. Sorry, Lions fans. I apologize. Washington Commanders at the Miami Dolphins. We're shipping them off to Spain. Miami's favored by 2.5. This is kicking off the weekend. Or, yeah, the Sunday at least, 9:30 a.m. Dolphins by 2.5 here. Commanders 3-7, Dolphins 3-7.
Yeah, just your standard international game for a first-timer.
I'll touch on this one quickly. What should the Spanish be keeping an eye on here?
What should the Spanish
What should everybody be keeping an eye on in Commanders-Dolphins? I mentioned it last week. It's a battle of it's Tua against his hero, Marcus Mariota. Couple of Hawaiian quarterbacks. Marcus Mariota was an inspiration to young quarterbacks on the islands. The way he won the Heisman Trophy at Oregon, became the number 2 overall pick, and Tua following in his footsteps. So it's a Tua versus Mariota matchup.
Yep, indeed. I mean, Miami looked good last week. We didn't expect it, but they were legitimately impressive. So, can they bank that up? Or was that just a one-off Super Bowl game? Was that the exploding whale game? Miami done. Did they explode last week and take down Buffalo for no particular reason? And are they done again?
Were they ever a whale, though, is the problem.
That's the issue. But otherwise, it has all the hallmarks of an exploding whale. Maybe maybe they're a smaller marine mammal. Maybe it was like an exploding walrus or something.
Somebody in the chat said Dolphins 70, Commanders 20. It does make me think the Mike McDaniel era, right? It was awful at the beginning of the season, but the era has been the epitome of the era has been beat up on bad teams, defenses in particular, but beat up on bad teams, right? So if the Dolphins are back at whatever level the Dolphins can be back, were they ever a whale? Who knows? But if they are, this is the type of defense they drop 30 on, right?
Yeah. I mean, Washington's defense is bad enough that most teams should be able to drop 30 on them. But yes, Miami is particularly adept generally during the Mike McDaniel tenure at beating up on bad teams.
Let me add one more tentacle to this, right?
Tentacle.
We talked about Dan Quinn yesterday taking over the play calling. If you look at the Shanahan versus Dan Quinn history, it's been very Shanahan favored, right? Shanahan had Dan Quinn as his defensive coordinator in Atlanta.
Yep.
Every time they matched up against Dallas, San Francisco and Dallas, San Francisco had the advantage. He had all the answers to the Dan Quinn defense. Now Quinn has evolved his defense a lot,
right?
But they're devoid of personnel right now, including Deron Payne, who punched Amon-Ra and is missing the game. And so you've got Mike McDaniel, the Shanahan disciple, going up against Dan Quinn. The tree has had good answers to the Dan Quinn defense historically. So I'm just throwing that out there.
I still never saw why Javon Kinlaw avoided getting ejected from a game for hitting an official.
You didn't hear the explanation?
No.
Because they had an ejection on the previous play, supposedly. And the NFL didn't want to pile on.
Who said that?
I just saw the report out there. They didn't want to do like back-to-back plays.
That's clearly not an official explanation. Like that, the pool reporter didn't go to the head referee or whatever.
Can't throw two people out.
He's like, I couldn't do it two plays in a row. That's like that might be the reason that it happened, actually, but that's not the explanation somebody gave for it.
There's also new footage that Amon-Ra, our teammate, did throw the first punch on Daron Payne.
But like on a previous play, right?
Whatever it was.
Yeah.
Either way, like, not calling for his suspension or anything.
They got into like a scuffle on a play.
We're at a point
before.
like we have video of all this stuff. It doesn't have to be like second guy gets caught.
Yeah. They got into but it wasn't like you see sometimes where the guy throws the first jab and then the guy responding to him in the same scuffle gets tossed. This was like they got into a scuffle before, and then I think was that when then the Lions had a successful play, whatever that play actually was, and then Amon-Ra said something to Payne on the way back, and that's where Payne was like, "All right," his arm over the top. But like, yeah, the Kinlaw thing is insane. Like, guys have been tossed from games for like accidentally brushing up against an official, or for the officials like shoving him backwards, and he like get the hell off me, right? Guys have been tossed for that. Kinlaw actually goes out and like pushes/strikes an official, and they're like, well, we tossed the guy last play, so I can't eject him now. That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, the point is, Washington's defense is spiraling out of control. Their players on the defensive line are getting themselves in all kinds of trouble, penalties, not making plays. The back end is awful. Like, Miami should be able to have success.
Washington's run game, and we'll talk about that when we talk prop bet, but Washington's run game, Miami's run defense, the run defense has been pretty bad for the majority of the season, but over the last 3 weeks, most of their run defense has been pretty good. They did a pretty good job against James Cook last week. They did a pretty good job in the first half against Baltimore a couple weeks ago. They did a really nice job against Atlanta 3 weeks ago. Jordan Brooks playing with some fire and some energy. The defensive tackles are holding the point better than they did the first 6 or 7 weeks of the year. So I like Washington's run game, the way they do create a little bit of space for Bill Croskey-Merritt and Chris Rodriguez, who's going to play through a shoulder injury here. So I think they could have some success on the ground, but Miami has played with a little bit more energy and passion in the run game, and if they can slow that down, I think they've got a chance here. Their defense has played a lot better.
Yeah.
Over the last few weeks, even with that second half against Baltimore, it's been a better run, I think, for Miami's defense than it was earlier in the year.
No, it has. It's been much better. I mean, this is the interesting thing about Miami is that they haven't really they seem to tap out in the second half of one game. Outside of that, they have actually played pretty hard.
Yeah.
Badly for a lot of the season, but hard. Like, they haven't given up and, just packed in the season the way a lot of teams already have, or the way that you could have understood them do. And that's why I think this thing of let's fire the GM, I think there's a real, possibility that McDaniel is still going to be there long term. Because I don't think he's lost the team. I do think they still want to roll with him. And he has a history of getting success out of some of these guys. So they're kind of an interesting team, actually, at the moment. Like, they're not good, but they've got some interesting elements to how they were playing. Devon Achane, like, they've got impressive players as well.
I love every game, so I'll enjoy it. It's going to be fun. Let's see if Miami can get back on track. And I'll just say, as bad as they looked earlier in the year, there are teams every year who start 1-5, 3-7, and by the end of the year, they're 9-8, or they're pushing a playoff run. I'm not saying Miami's going to the playoffs. I'm just saying this stuff happens. Can Miami be that team to turn it around? I'm not asking that about Washington because they seem to be spiraling the other way.
Yeah.
And they've got, their backup quarterback in there. But let's see if Miami can build on this. They're favored by 2.5, 9:30 a.m. in Spain. Where are you going to go with this one?
I am going to go with Miami.
I'll also take the Dolphins. Harry's going to take Washington. And we'll talk a little Bill Croskey-Merritt in a minute here because FanDuel has a new offer. for NFL fans that you don't want to miss. New customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. However you want to play, now's the perfect time to join because FanDuel's giving new customers $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. So visit FanDuel.com/33rd to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino or 18 plus and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7767 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts. Or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Today, we're talking Bill, Jacory Croskey-Merritt. His over-under in this game in Spain, Washington at Miami. Over-under is 36.5 rushing yards. Chris Rodriguez going to play. Miami's run defense, as we've said, been a little bit hit or miss, trending in the right direction, but where would you go with this one? Jacory Croskey-Merritt, 36.5 rushing yards.
And Miami's defense actually held James Cook completely in check last week, albeit there was a fumble in there as well, right?
Yes.
But, this defense that had been giving up yards to everybody all of a sudden clamped down against the Bills, along with every other part of the team. I will go under this week.
All right, I'm going to take the over. I think he could break one big one. I think Miami down for down has been better against the run. I'm going to count on at least one breakdown for a 30-plus yard run here for Bill. Okay. So I'll take the over. It's over at FanDuel.com/33rd. Go check it out. Download the app right now. All right, let's go Los Angeles Chargers at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Chargers favored by 3. It's Sunday at 1 o'clock. And over-under is 43.5 per FanDuel. The 7-3 Chargers against the 5-4 Jacksonville Jaguars. Heartbreaker last week for the Jags. They should be, or could be, 6-3. Going up against the 7-3 Chargers. Massive playoff implications here. Still have all of that at stake. But if you're a Jags fan and you're looking back at the season, the 29 points or whatever, 26, whatever they gave up, they're up 29-10 in the fourth quarter and blew it last week.
Particularly if the rest of the season shakes out where, the Chargers keep winning, Kansas City keeps winning, like the wild card teams keep winning, and all of a sudden Jacksonville finds themselves on the outside looking in when they could or maybe should have solidified a wild card spot. I mean, that could be a huge loss for them, particularly if they double down and lose this game.
Well, the Jags have the tiebreaker over the Chiefs if it gets to that point where the Chiefs are battling for a wild card spot. But now you're putting this, that
only counts. Yeah, then they
if
just
you're
need
tied,
right? And only 2 of them. Otherwise, like if it's a 3-way tie, it goes to a different. Like they lose the tiebreaker that way. I forget what the tiebreaker is then, but it's not head to head because obviously you can't.
Either way, given the Colts' lead in the division, massive playoff implications here.
Yeah,
where both of these teams are probably going to be battling for a wild card. Of course, there's always a chance either could win the division, but probably battling for a wild card spot.
Yeah,
and they played in the playoffs a couple years ago. Remember, this was the game where the Chargers were up big and the Jags made a huge comeback.
Jacksonville, you would assume, are definitely a wild card contending team at this point. It would take something pretty special for them to win the division, given where they are relative to Indianapolis. The Chargers, though, have got to still have designs on winning the division. They're only a game back from Denver. They're 3-0 within the division so far this season. So they have got to be looking at this and saying, we can still win the division and host playoff football. And look, the Chargers are interesting because there's a lot of good for the team. The problem is it's a bit like San Francisco where it's like the bad isn't getting much better anytime soon. Like the bad is the offensive line, and it's so banged up and injured, and it's going to be a while before it gets even remotely healthy. And at the moment, you're like, is that going to determine whether or not they can win games?
It's a good point. If you're looking at this from a Chargers perspective, they're a game behind the Broncos in the division. Denver's playing Kansas City, right? So you're sitting there thinking, well, they're underdogs against Kansas City. At the end of Sunday, the Chargers could be sitting there atop the AFC West if they win this game. So it's not just wild card playoff implications. Of course, the division is there to be had for both teams, but I mean, really for the Chargers, they have an opportunity here. Their offensive line, they survived the other night. I thought it was it was ugly early on for the Chargers. They did make a few big plays. Ladd McConkey always seems to be good for a big play, which is great for the Chargers offense because they're overcoming the offensive line struggles. I guess McAfee called them out too, the Chargers O-line.
Called them out?
Well, he put up all of the PFF ranks of the Chargers.
Well, they were all like bottom.
Yeah.
35th out of 35,
he
36.
was kind of, what I understand, he was like, these guys are terrible. I didn't hear it. I don't want to
So it's not cool to put them up on Sunday Night Football, but it's okay for McAfee to put them up on his show?
It's okay to trash PFF grades and let JJ go to town on PFF grades, but then he used those grades to say how bad the Chargers offensive line is. Where we would never do such things. We would say, no, just highlight the positives on Sunday Night Football. You don't need to put all the negative grades out there where they have struggled. The Chargers O-line's interesting because it's not like they're also not all bad players. The guys that have struggled, like the Mekhi Bectons and Bradley Bosemans of the world, like they've had good stretches of play in their career. They're just clearly hurting at tackle where they would have had a top 2 or 3 tackle duo before Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater go down.
Yeah.
And there's just this residual effect. And they got quick pressure on Herbert the other night, and it did slow down the offense at points, but Herbert has been able to overcome with a few big throws every week, and I think that's what the Chargers are going to be battling, right? In every Chargers game from here till the end of the season, can Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker and Eric Armstead get the pressure? When they go up against Kansas City, is Spags going to get pressure? Can they overcome the pressure that seems inevitable right now?
That's the problem.
Every single week.
It's like Herbert is a special caliber of quarterback in potential, but you've got 2 things. Number one, every game he's up against it because his offensive line is this bad right now. And, while they got Joe Alt back one time, they're not getting him back a second time. He's done for the year now. So, you've lost 2 elite caliber offensive tackles, neither of whom is coming back this season. So, for the remainder of the year, you are down to Austin Deculus, Trey Pipkins, Foster Sorrell if you need him. You're down to struggling players. A guy like Becton is interesting because he had a good stretch of play for the Eagles last year, but that was, number one, unexpected. Number two, it was in an offensive line that had 4 really good players around him, and he was able to come in and sort of raise his game to that level. And number 3, he'd never done anything like that up until high draft pick who'd struggled and dealt with a ton of injuries and then was unexpectedly impressive last year in that good situation. So you're like, is that even on the cards for him, or did he just have a really good stretch of play last year? Did his good stretch of play last year require 4 good players around him, or is that something he could do independent of that in a bad situation? For Herbert, the thing is, you're going to be under a ton of pressure pretty much every game. That's not useful. I mean, you're making his life harder every single game because the offensive line is bad. The other concern is, Herbert is a guy who's been banged up a lot in his career, and every game you're under a ton of pressure and getting hit a lot can only be moving you closer to the next injury. And the next injury might completely determine how much this team can win and how far they can go. As long as you have a healthy Justin Herbert, theoretically they can beat anybody, right? They've shown that. I think Herbert has shown that. But as soon as you get a banged up version of Herbert, I don't think that's true anymore. If he's dealing with, a rib injury or an ankle injury or, a shoulder injury, when they go up against the best teams, I don't think they win those games.
The difference, I think, in the Chargers this year, though, is the various playmakers that they have. And one of the ways you survive a bad offensive line is getting rid of the ball quickly and having receivers who get open. And you have Keenan Allen, you have Ladd McConkey, Aronde Gadsden. I know he dropped a bunch on Sunday night, but he's emerged as a rookie tight end. Quentin Johnston had some clunky plays the other night, but has been pretty good overall. Got to get the ball out of Herbert's hands and get the ball into those playmakers' hands. And they at least have that part of the offense. I think Keenan Allen's going to be crucial down the stretch here because he's the guy that he's your blitz beater. He's your get open quick guy, be in the right spot. Ladd can do that as well. But I think that's going to be the key every single week, finding a way to protect Herbert, keep him healthy, get the ball out of his hands, protect the offensive line. They have run the ball okay with Vidal back there and have a chance to continue that against the Jags. And on the other side, it's another – look, there's a lot of truths when it comes to the Jags offense. Lawrence hasn't played great. Receivers have dropped a ton of passes. Trevor Lawrence has also faced a run of really difficult pass defenses, and it continues with the Chargers, right? They're a very good sum of the parts type of defense where they might make life difficult. They challenge everything up to 20 yards. They don't give a whole lot up down the field opportunities. And so it's another game where Trevor Lawrence, who's been a little better against man versus zone, going to face zone-heavy defense, and trust your playmakers. We'll see if another week of Jacoby Myers in the system ends up, increasing his targets and his looks. But Jags' passing offense has been really just a struggle this entire season.
Yeah,
it was a big part of why they could not hold on to the lead. When you blow a big lead, it's not just the defense. The offense's inability. They went 3 straight 3-and-outs in the fourth quarter. That's a big part of the reason why they blew the game against Houston.
The number 1 defense in the NFL this year in terms of passer rating allowed is Houston. The number 2 one is the Chargers. Yeah. So he's going back-to-back a defense that is extremely difficult to pass against versus now another defense that's extremely difficult to pass against. And they're different, obviously. Like, I think Houston has a much more formidable defensive line and pass rush and affects them that way. But the Chargers is basically equally effective on the back end.
I think it's a fun matchup. I think it's a fun schematic matchup. You go back to that playoff game. Remember, it was at 2022. Chargers blew was like a 28-point lead. It was a massive lead. And this was when it felt like the Jags were coming into their own, right? This was second year of Trevor Lawrence, first year of Doug Peterson. They turned things around in the second half of the season. They went into Kansas City after that. They ended up losing, but it was like, all right, Jags are on the upswing. And they have not been since that point. It's another opportunity for them to get back on track here against the Chargers team. Again, I think that has done a really nice job of overcoming some of their injuries, finding different ways to win, and put together a pretty good team here that has a chance at the end of Sunday to be in first place in the AFC West if a couple things go their way. So Sunday at 1, Chargers by 3. Where are you going to go with this one?
I am going with the Chargers.
I'm taking Jacksonville as underdogs. Coming back from last week.
Okay.
Jags as underdogs here. Harry's going to take the Chargers by 3 here. Another fun one. Tampa Bay Bucks at the Buffalo Bills. Sunday at 1. Bills favored by 5.5. Both teams coming off of losses. Bucks losing to New England, coming off their bye, and the Bills with the heartbreaker, or disappointment, we'll say, more heart than heartbreaker, against the Dolphins. Both teams 6-3. Over-under is 47.5 here. They're both 6-3, but the Bucks have a pretty significant lead in the NFC South for this time of the year. The Bills are at this point where if they still want to win the division, they can't really slip up. And now you also can't slip up for just wild card in the playoffs. And, last week we were talking about do you bubble wrap Joey Bosa? Like, do you start to save your good players? You can't really do that anymore now because you're fighting for your playoff life every week now in Buffalo.
I mean, well, you've got that part of it, that they need to win these games. You've got the other part where they keep losing bodies. Like, the defensive line is so depleted now, even though they bolstered it. They specifically tried to insulate against this exact thing happening by going and signing a Joey Bosa, a Michael Hoyt, a Ogunjobi. Like, they went out there trying to get defensive linemen so that this didn't happen. They draft Landon Jackson. Well, Jackson just landed on IR. They were already down Ed Oliver with his biceps injury. Like, they're missing the bodies. Michael Hoyt popped his Achilles almost as soon as he got back in the lineup. Somehow defensive line has become an issue again, despite them specifically going out of their way to try and add as many bodies to that as possible.
Yeah, and they still have some players there, but that's why you build up the depth. But you're not going out there with the same type of depth that you expected throughout the season.
And now they need all of those guys to remain healthy because they don't have the insulation anymore. They don't have the backups.
We did a pretty significant segment yesterday on the Bills. So if you've tuned in and you're a Bills fan and you want more Bills analysis, we did break it down on Wednesday's show. If you're in the video section here on YouTube, you just click on the live section, check out the Wednesday show from the 12th. And we did a little roadside assistance for the Bills. And I kept it really simple. I know there's some sky is falling type of analysis going around Buffalo, what's wrong with the offense and Josh Allen and the whole deal. But I said just stop turning the ball over. It's the turnovers. It's the turnovers.
It's a turnover, stupid.
It's the bounce of the ball.
The bounce of the ball.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
So they're turning the ball. Like the 3 losses, they not just lost the turnover battle, but significantly lost the turnover battle.
Well, you know what should help with that?
What's that?
Weather.
Oh, I was waiting. Yeah. What we got?
Buffalo on Sunday, rain and snow mix.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's good.
So 84% chance of precipitation of some degree. That's conducive to turnovers. Sloppy
I love
football.
watching a Florida team go play in the elements.
Baker Mayfield, sloppy football, wet conditions. That ball's going to be popping out all over the place.
It's another battle. I like this. A battle of the class of 2018. This could be our redemption tour here, Sam, because we had Baker number 1, and we're like, no way, Josh Allen.
Told you Baker's
should be
better
the
than
number
Josh Allen.
So if Baker wins,
I can do a mid-game tweet just like that Jacksonville asshole.
pull out.
First drive, Baker touchdown. See? Told you Baker
Told you
was
he's
number
better
1.
than Josh Allen. He's the best. He's the best quarterback in 2018. I mean, really, Sam Darnold's the best quarterback from the class of 2018.
Not if Baker scores an opening drive touchdown and the other 2 don't.
Definitely go or fourth quarter come now. Just
That's
after
true.
one drive.
Right.
Just after one drive.
Well, the fourth quarter comeback is the perfect. Like, you can mic drop that and walk away, and then people got to wait till next week.
You can't get old takes exposed.
Right. Not at least for a week. Whereas the first drive thing is a problem. That's how you end up getting,
So, no, it's a fun matchup. Baker in the offense.
By the way, somehow never mind. Carry on.
Baker and the offense have not looked as good the last few weeks. Now, they've battled injuries the whole year, but Mike Evans in and out of the lineup. They survived the Mike Evans being out early in the year with Emeka Egbuka stepping up. But since Evans last got hurt, the last time, they're missing some explosive plays, some consistency on that side of the ball. Egbuka's still awesome. I think that's a great matchup against Buffalo's corners. But they haven't been able to find their rhythm on offense these last few weeks, Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
And then high level, it's like, man, they did win a lot of games late. They are a fine line between being, 4-5 versus 6-3 with some of those fourth quarter wins.
Well, they're an interesting team because, they were winning a lot of these really close games. A lot of the underlying numbers said they weren't actually that great, but they kept Baker magic, third down, scrambles, keeping the game alive, fourth quarter, and they made a bunch of those wins. On the other hand, you were like, but they're so banged up now. Once they start getting a bit healthier, those things will even out. The magic will regress, but also they're getting healthier, so they should be better than the underlying data says they are right now. Well, the magic has regressed a bit. They have gotten healthier, and I think at the moment it's been like that. The balance of those two things is not a net win yet. Like, I think the magic disappearing has had a bigger effect than the positive effect of getting some bodies healthier. Particularly on the offensive line, the bodies were they're still banged up in the receiving core, obviously. So I think, they might not be as good as they looked earlier in the season, but they're still talented. There's still potential there for that to catch fire.
Dalton Kincaid, his injury, I think, hurts a lot.
Yep.
For the Bills offense. I really saw him. Trey McBride had the big breakout last year. Seeing that similar, different style player, but similar type of breakout for Kincaid. I think that hurts for Buffalo as they're trying to find consistency as far as their pass catchers go. There's so much catch and run and yak and, specifically built to beat the Chiefs, but maybe not other defenses. And they're trying to find that balance offensively. One matchup that I think they potentially could exploit. We got strength on strength. 33rd team research team says Buffalo's yards per carry against base defenses is 5 yards per carry. That's number 1. Tampa Bay is great in their base defense, stopping the run, 2.7 yards per carry. That's 4th best. But Tampa Bay is not as good when they're in nickel. So when they bring in extra defensive back, they're allowing 5+ yards per carry, 24th in the league. And Buffalo's still good. They still run well against nickel. So you might be able to exploit or control some of the matchups if you're Buffalo offensively and lean on James Cook in the run game. Tampa Bay is usually really good stopping the run, but we saw last week they were, outside of a couple big plays, happened to be toss plays to Travion Henderson, toss plays. We saw the Bills spamming this play a couple weeks ago against Carolina, gave Cook about 10 of them. And he was breaking some big plays. So keep an eye on James Cook getting to the edge against this Tampa Bay defense.
One thing that's pretty interesting as a dynamic is last season and for the start of this season, the Josh Allen and the Bills faced a ton of man coverage. Like that was seen as the way to stop this team. They don't have the X receiver that scares you. Let's just play man coverage across the board, and that's the way to attack this Bills offense. The last few weeks, that's really pivoted, and teams are throwing zone at them the whole time. Now you're going up against this Todd Bowles defense and the blitzing. Like, how does Tampa Bay approach this game, given that the league seems to have decided actually zone is now the way of stopping Josh Allen and the Bills?
I think it's going to be a fun one, man. It's going to be a good matchup. I love that there's a little bit of weather potentially involved here. Despite Buffalo laying an egg last week against Miami, they're still favored by 5.5 at home here. Where are you going to go with this one?
Yeah, I don't like it, but I'm going with the Bills to win and cover this.
All right, I wrote Bills. I put that down.
You did.
I think they need – I don't know if it mattered. They need it a little bit more, I would say, after last week. They're trying to keep pace. Bucks, it's no one's really keeping pace with them. We'll see what happens with Carolina, but no one's keeping pace with them in the South right now. I'll take the Bills.
It would certainly be more of a crisis if Buffalo lost than Tampa Bay.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it. Let's go Cincinnati Bengals at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Rematch from Thursday Night Football a few weeks ago. Steelers favored by 5.5 here. It's the 3-6 Bengals and the 5-4 Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers coming off their loss last week against the Chargers. Bengals coming off of a bye, but the last time we saw them losing in very difficult fashion to the Chicago Bears and the New York Jets. And we talked a little bit about yesterday. Joe Burrow's back at practice. He's got his 21-day practice window. If the Bengals had won one of those games, if they were 4-5 or even 5-4, as we thought they easily could be.
Yeah,
even if they were just 4-5.
Right.
Then you're talking about, okay, you're a game away from first place.
Yeah.
In the North, and Joe Burrow's, in the practice bubble facility playing.
Don't call it a bubble.
It's not a bubble. So, disappointment in Cincinnati.
They did the hard part. The hard part was this game last time, the Thursday night game against Pittsburgh, in which Pittsburgh were 5.5-point favorites. Like, it's the same line as it was the last time.
Yeah.
And Pittsburgh were expected, therefore, to win that game fairly comfortably. Instead, Joe Flacco has like the game of his life, plays out of his mind. Jamar Chase gets 1 million catches for, 2 million yards. And the Steelers collapse and don't win the game. And so you stole a game that you had no business really winning, and then the next 2 games were against much weaker opponents, and you backed that up by losing those games. And so now you're back in the same situation where you kind of need to win this game to keep this season alive long enough that Joe Burrow has any purpose in returning for this year, as opposed to just shutting it down and coming back next season.
Yeah, if they fall to 3-7, might be it for Cincinnati.
I mean, it's not quite, but it's life support at that point. This would be this one, because it's the division game, it's against Pittsburgh, it's tightening that division even more, with Baltimore in the mix. Like it's bunching it all up. If you won this one, even if you lost the next 2, you'd still be at least theoretically alive, and there'd still be something there. If you lose this one, it's pretty hard to salvage anything without winning all the rest of the games.
Did you get a weather report in Pittsburgh for Sunday?
I didn't. Do you want me to do one now?
You're the weatherman today.
Am I?
They're at Chicago next week. We could have all sorts of fun weather games for Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's at Chicago next week. I'm going to be picking the Steelers based off of all Mike Tomlin vibes this whole season.
For the rest of the year.
Right, like they won the game that I rightfully predicted, the Tomlin upset against the Colts. Then they had one of the worst offensive showings of any team, any season, all season against the Chargers on Sunday Night Football. Now you got a bit of a revenge game against the Bengals after they disappointed on Thursday night on the road. It's like Steelers are winning this game. This is a Mike Tomlin comes back and wins this game.
Weather forecast, apparently 49 degrees, a shower in places in the morning, otherwise breezy and cooler with bright periods.
Nice. The sun might peek through.
Sounds like inconsequential weather.
It does.
Although the wind might get up.
Oh, what we got? Is it above 18, potentially?
So the wind is 15, but gusts to 29.
Wow. That could affect things. Old man's arm, double old man arm. You got the 40-year-olds throwing the ball into the swirling wind.
The geriatric bowl, too.
Yeah. Rodgers Flacco, too. this year.
Like a UFC event that nobody wanted, you know?
We all wanted it. It's one of the games of the year if you hate defense.
Yeah.
Defense was awful.
It was. I mean, that's the thing. So this was the last time Pittsburgh's defense looked terrible, right? Up and after this, they kind of pulled it together, particularly on the defensive line. Because remember, like, one of the most ridiculous aspects of this game, forget the fact that Jamar Chase on a 23rd target was like uncovered over the middle. The Steelers' defensive line, which theoretically is supposed to be one of the best units in the NFL, was going up against the Bengals' offensive line, which still isn't good. And Joe Flacco made it look like not a problem whatsoever. That was one of the craziest parts of this game the first time around, is that Pittsburgh's defensive line really didn't make much of an impact. It should, and that's why the line is still 5.5 in Pittsburgh's favor.
It was also the last time I think Pittsburgh's offense really looked good. And
that's not a coincidence either.
Yeah, and if you look at when has Pittsburgh's offense looked good, it was the Jets in week 1, Bengals in week 7. I think the Minnesota game in week 4 was a bit of an anomaly, but that was, a clean game for them, and Rodgers only threw the ball 22 times. They ran the ball effectively. Steelers' offense has been extremely inconsistent as well, but the Bengals make every offense look unbelievable. They look great. Including, Rodgers threw what could have been the game-winning touchdown to Pat Freiermuth, just running through the defense, much like they allowed Colston Loveland to run through the defense the last time we saw them. So the Bengals' defense has been incredibly consistent, bottom 2 in the NFL, them and the Cowboys. Trey Hendrickson's doubtful for the game. He didn't play the last time either, so he's still dealing with his injury. So they have no pass rush. They don't blitz. They have one guy that can cover, DJ Turner. They've got the rookie linebackers who are getting wrecked in the run game and the pass game. So the Bengals defense, unless they change something dramatically in the bye week, they haven't really stopped anybody all season.
They have no pass rush. They have bad linebackers. They have no one that can cover. And
one guy, DJ Turner.
One guy that can cover. And they have most of the highest-ranked missed tackle artists in the NFL, all in the same defense.
That's correct.
That's problematic, you would say.
And it's in Pittsburgh. Tomlin rematch against Joe Flacco, who he's afraid of, but they'll have, they might cover Jamar Chase more than 16 times.
I mean, that will be an interesting thing. Like, after that game, what do you do with Jamar Chase? Because, I don't understand why you didn't do it the first time around, but can you possibly run into a game this time around without dedicating extra coverage in the direction of Jamar Chase? Like, you can't possibly go in there with the same kind of defensive game plan, which is, look, we respect both of these wide receivers equally. So if Jamar Chase is wide open because he's one-on-one with a guy, so be it. Surely you have to go, the man had 25 targets last time we played and wrecked us. He has to be bracket covered every play.
Yeah. We'll see if they have some kind of adjustment. Here's a great stat from 33rd Team, very Mike Tomlin team stat. The Steelers have a 3-and-out rate. They have gone 3-and-out 44% of the time. That is the worst rate since 2023. Second worst by any team, actually, since 2019. And it was the 2023 Patriots. Was that Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi? Last year of Belichick, anyway, which was 46%. So the second worst 3-and-out rate since 2019. This is what I'm saying. Like, Pittsburgh's offense has been very inconsistent. They've put some points on the board because they've had some short fields and forced some turnovers, gotten the ball inside of opponent territory a ton. And, that's going to be a key here. The other fun note here, which is why it's a Tomlin thing, teams with over 40% 3-and-out rate since 2019, they only average 4.3 wins per season. The Steelers already have 5. Right? Tomlin just defies all the odds. I don't care about your point differential. I don't care about your 3-and-out rate. We will find a way to win our 9 football games. Yeah. We will do that.
It really does.
Against all odds.
It's just one of the constants of the universe. It makes no sense whatsoever, but that's what he's going to do.
And so, what do the Steelers? The Steelers still have 2 Ravens games and a Bills game and a Lions game. Like, if you're going to lose those 4, that gets you to your 8 losses. You got to win the rest here.
Yeah.
You got to win the rest if you're going to get your 9 wins. So all of these games have massive Tomlin record implications, as well as, the playoffs. They're still sitting here in first place.
And all of a sudden, Pittsburgh is now under fairly significant pressure from a charging Baltimore team on their win streak. Like, they actually need they need to start winning because you got 2 games against Baltimore, and if you drop one of those, you're in real trouble.
I believe the Steelers will win this game, but I will lay that out. Here is what is at stake. They're 5-4. Ravens are 4-5. Ravens are facing the Browns as 10-point favorites or whatever. At the end of Sunday, the Ravens could be in first place if they win and the Steelers lose. So that is what is at stake in this one. Steelers by 5.5. Where are you going to go?
Oh, God, I'm going to go with Pittsburgh. It can't happen twice.
Yeah, me too. Take it Pittsburgh. I mean, I think Tomlin's going to, the Steelers are going to win this game. Rodgers going to have a good game, I think, against this Bengals defense. 5.5 feels like a big number, but I'm taking it again.
Yeah.
Harry's taking Cincinnati, though. He believes in the Fighting Flaccos. Chicago Bears at the Minnesota Vikings. Sunday at 1, Minnesota favored by 3 here, despite being the last place team.
Yeah.
In the NFC North.
6-3
Bears in the 4-5 Minnesota Vikings rematch from Week 1.
Indeed. I think that is pretty interesting. That the Vikings showed against Detroit, they can still beat even very good teams because they have a lot of talent. Like, it does require high-end play from a few of those guys, but they've got the talent to do it. I think they're a better team than they showed earlier in the season when their offensive line was just a mash unit and a backup group, essentially. Now they've got most of the starting offensive line out there. It is a team that can do some damage. McCarthy's probably going to be inconsistent as a quarterback because he's so young and inexperienced, but they're dangerous.
Yeah, it's a fun matchup here, man. Caleb Williams again playing pretty well. Seeing what he does against Flores and that defense.
Well, he's riding high. I mean, he's coming off that game where all Bears fans are now anointing him as the chosen one, and the guy, we got it right. He's the number 1 overall pick, the superstar, the one that we've asked for so long. He's here, and now he's going to go against Flores again.
I want to bring it up again because Caleb Williams won the game with his legs more than anything, right? 2 huge scrambles to get the game winner, and he's done that a couple times this year. Is he another quarterback kind of like Josh Allen in that, like, you didn't realize how good he would be as a runner or how athletic he would be at the NFL level? Because that's where I'm not surprised by it, right? Like, when I described Caleb Williams coming out, I was like, the guy can zip it, he could throw a touch, he could throw on the move, he could do all these things. Arm talent's outstanding. He is athletic. I've seen him have some big scrambles at Oklahoma and USC. But the way he turned that corner the other day, like, legitimate speed.
Yeah, I mean, I
as
don't.
a scrambler.
Every time I watch him play, I'm impressed by all of his physical traits. Like, every time I see him, Herbert was like this for a while. Like, every time you saw Herbert, you're like, man, that guy is bigger, stronger, faster, and has a better arm than you think he does. Just every time you see him. And that's where I am with Caleb Williams as well. Like, sometimes you see these guys and you're like, there's a reason that everyone was so blown away by them as a draft prospect at various periods. He's bigger. Not big. He's stronger, faster, and his arm, like some of the throws he's able to make, particularly on the run, are absolutely ridiculous. And every time you watch him, you're struck by that. So it's not so much just the speed that I'm impressed by. It's literally every aspect of him when you watch him is physically impressive.
So 2 good games last couple weeks for Caleb Williams against Cincinnati. It was the Bengals last week against the Giants. The Giants have had some impressive fourth quarter collapses. It's been a more challenging defense. It was okay the first time around. I think Caleb Williams against Flores, another one where he did a little bit more damage, I'd say, with his legs than throwing the ball. But remember last year Caleb had the 5 big time throw game against Flores' defense and made some huge throws in crunch time to get the ball to get the game to overtime in Chicago. This will be a good one, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Flores' defense has gotten itself together in the last couple of weeks as well. Like, everything about the Vikings is better now than it was earlier in the year when it was banged up or not playing well. The Flores defense the last couple of weeks I think has looked a lot better. That'll be, I think they'll cause Caleb Williams some problems. Where he goes with the ball is always kind of interesting. Sometimes it's a Dunze. We talked about Zacchaeus is still getting a ton of targets. Maybe you might want to give Luther Burton the ball a bit more, given that he looks like a dynamic playmaker. They've got this nice split in the backfield now with DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monungai, the rookie. So, and you're getting Colson Loveland more involved in the offense after a few weeks where he wasn't really a factor. So the Bears offense has got players to spread the ball around to, and it comes down to whether Caleb can get that done within this Flores pressure package. You've also got, again, every week you seem to have two settings for Caleb Williams. The within rhythm, early in the game, under script, get rid of the ball quickly, efficiently. And then you've got the master of chaos. It's broken down. I'm going to start scrambling. I'm going to fire all these passes on the run. And he only goes from one to the other. There doesn't seem to be a middle ground where he can incorporate both. I mean, Flores is the type of defense that forces you into the second one, right? Like just immediately can throw him into that kind of mode. So that'll be interesting, is how quickly can Flores force Caleb Williams into that type of operation? Because I do think that's where you want him to be as a defense. As much as he's dangerous and he's capable of beating you the way he did last week, I still think you want him in that zone. Let's just force him into all ad-libbing all the time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, even Mahomes and Allen, you'd rather them play outside of structure.
Like they're capable
inside.
of making it work, but you still want them doing that.
It's just a lower percentage. Williams is a very fascinating player overall. I thought, remember last year the sack totals were through the roof. The offensive line wasn't great, but I think he always made them look worse. He's at a point now, I highlighted a couple of those plays the other day, Darnell Wright lost quickly, and he was avoiding pressure. His pressure to sack rate has gone from one of the worst
to the 7th best.
There you go. And you usually do that by winning with your arm. When we say pressure to sack rate, it's usually not sack avoidance from a forced to miss tackle and scrambled out, but that's how Caleb's doing it right now. He's doing it with his athleticism, which, again, I don't know if that's the most sustainable thing or the way that you necessarily want to play, but it's another part of his game that is difficult, right? If he is going to be so good at getting out of pressure, the same thing I said about Mahomes a couple games ago, as a pass rusher, you got a decision to make, right? You have to figure out, am I going to sell out to try to get the sack, to try to get the negative play, or do I have to play contain and keep him in and not let him get outside the pocket where he is dangerous with his arm? So it will start to put pass rushers, I think, in a bind if Caleb Williams continues to play like this. Other side of the ball, we did have a Bears fan bring up that we haven't talked about enough, or I got DM'd, I think, and I'll bring it up now. The part of their defense and their inability to get quick pressure and some of the weaknesses of the Bears defense, we haven't brought up enough about Jalen Johnson being out for the season and Kyler Gordon and, just so many injuries on the back end. And Nashawn Wright, who has been a career backup, being a starter week in, week out, Tyreek Stevenson being out there. They've survived, right? They've survived with some weaknesses on the back end. And if there was a game where this would be exploited, it would be against Minnesota with all of their receivers healthy. Jalen Naylor connection now with J.J. McCarthy, the way they've connected. But Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Jalen Naylor, Hawkinson, they should be able to have success against this back seven in Chicago with their inconsistent pass rush. If there was a J.J. McCarthy game for him to get back on track, you would think this would be the one.
Yeah, they're definitely banged up in the secondary. And the other element that will be interesting there is that J.J. McCarthy, the one kind of defining characteristic of him so far is he's been big game hunting. He's been going deep at an insane degree. If you look at that Sam Hoppen, quarterback stat composite chart thing, McCarthy's basically last at everything except average depth of target where he is first. So he's terrible at everything generally, league-wide, relative to other quarterbacks, except he's the most aggressive quarterback in the NFL in terms of average depth of target. So that needs to come down. You don't want a young quarterback living in a 10 yards average depth of target world. But the problem is his efficiency. So that's part of why he's not that efficient in some other things, right? Because he's way more aggressive and those are lower percentage plays. So you're like, well, let's lower that and you get more efficient at everything else. But even if you adjust for that and say, well, how efficient is he on the short stuff? He's been wildly inefficient as well. So that's something they need to try and figure out where the balance is. Remember the first game was the one where he was pretty rough for 3 quarters, and then the fourth quarter caught fire, won the game. And it's
against these Bears.
Yeah, and that's kind of what he's been so far. Is you've got this wildly inconsistent player who's psychotically aggressive in terms of everything I'm doing is trying to hit something over the top, but might actually work against the Chicago team where everyone's banged up and they've got huge matchup advantages on the outside.
Then you have the game flow aspect as well. I think Minnesota's going to want to lean on the run game a little bit more, coming off a 42 attempt game from JJ because of all the false starts and the game flow. Every other game he hadn't thrown more than 25 times in his first 3 starts. So I think they want to get back to that. That's probably part of the reason why he's throwing the ball down the field. But, last week he was throwing the ball down the field a ton too, despite dropping back 42 times. Usually if you drop back that much, you've got some 5 yards, you've got some dink and dunk, you've got more screen games. They got to figure out what that balance is. But they have the receivers, I think, to have some success against Chicago here. But I think they're going to want to find a little more run game against this Bears defense and then put J.J. McCarthy into better position to succeed and lean on his playmakers. Going to be a fun game, man. Massive implications. It is at week 11. There's a lot on the line here. We're talking the Vikings season hanging on by a thread. The Bears have a chance to go 7-3 with the Lions playing the Eagles.
Right. John Daly, if not keeping pace, then overtaking Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
Taking a one-shot lead down the stretch.
That's what, at the end of Sunday. So Green Bay's playing the Giants, but they're in third. At the end of Sunday, if Chicago wins this game, at the end of Sunday, Bears could be in first place in the NFC North. So a lot at stake this weekend. Where are you going to go with this one? Minnesota's still favored by 3 here.
Or if Minnesota wins and other teams lose, they could bunch the entire division up again, back to where it was a week or so ago.
They'd be 5-5, 6-4. See what Green Bay's, whatever they are with their stupid.
They're 5-3-1 with the game. Yeah, it could.
Lions could be 6-4 because they're playing Philly.
The whole division could be basically a game apart.
Yeah, within a game.
Which would be pretty interesting.
Moving day for the NFC North.
Moving day.
Or compressing day. We'll see.
Yeah. I'm going to go with the Bears to win this.
I talked through it
and cover.
Landed on the Bears. Had Minnesota initially, but I talked through it and landed on the Bears. Harry's going to take Minnesota. A quick break to talk about our friends over at Root Insurance. Root Insurance believes that good drivers deserve better rates, so they've created a new kind of car insurance that rewards good drivers in an easy-to-use app. Traditional car insurance companies focus on demographics like age, zip code, occupation, and credit score to price your coverage, but when Root offers a rate, your behavior behind the wheel gets more weight than any other single factor. They don't use occupation or education level to negatively affect your rate. While you drive, Root gathers and analyzes data from your smartphone sensors, and after a few weeks, you'll get a car insurance quote based primarily on your driving. Save up to 44% off your initial Root quote after you take the test drive. If you need a tow truck, jump start, or lock your keys in the car, Root will cover the help you need to get back on the road when you opt into roadside assistance. The Root app makes it easy to edit your coverage, update your policy, or file a claim in just 3 minutes. You can get started today at Root.com. All right, man, we got 5 games left. We'll fly through the rest. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Carolina Panthers at the Atlanta Falcons. The Confusion Bowl.
Yes.
Atlanta by 3.5 here. I saw your strategy in picking. Atlanta favored by 3.5. They're 3-6 against the 5-5 Panthers. Remember the last time around, Panthers won 31-0? Shut out Atlanta. And they were 0-2, Carolina, at the time.
Yeah.
It was at home in Carolina. It was a confusing result.
Made no sense then. It doesn't make much more sense now.
We thought Atlanta would be better than 3-6. They've hit a lull and hit some issues here. And then Carolina just continues to win games that they shouldn't and now lose games that they shouldn't last week against the Saints.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense at the time because we thought Atlanta was a much better team than Carolina. Now, Carolina's 5-5. The Falcons are 3-6. They're still a couple of games better off, and yet Vegas is still saying, no, Atlanta's a better team. I'm not afraid to hide it. I tossed a coin on this one. I have no earthly idea what the hell is going to happen in this game. The 2 most confusing teams in the NFL are going head-to-head. Each one of them is like minus 40-something in terms of point differential in the season. I don't have any idea what the hell is going to happen in this game. It makes no sense to me.
Mike Renner put out a stat. I haven't fact-checked him on it, but I trust him. He'll be on the show next week, so why would he lie?
Well, if he did lie, you can call him out on it.
Something along the lines of Bryce Young's. If Bryce Young finishes the season, he's on pace to have the lowest passing yard total of any starting quarterback in over some period of time. Not since the merger or anything, but recent history probably. Backing up what we said, Carolina has been uber efficient in the run game. I think pass game wise, they've found some success throwing the ball to Tedrow and McMillan, but we just have not seen Bryce Young build upon so many of the positives from last season. And then Atlanta, I thought, Carolina had massive weaknesses in the middle of their defense, especially earlier in the year, and Penix didn't try to exploit them whatsoever. kept trying to throw outside the numbers. There was a late pick six in there. Penix just looked off. The entire offense was off against Carolina last time around. So see how they make some adjustments. And if Carolina can get back to, some of their game control, which was, running the ball, shortening up the game. Remember that each team had 7 possessions a couple weeks ago against the Packers. If you're an underdog, which technically they are right now, the more you shorten the game and decrease variance, then you're decrease, I guess, increase variance because you're, fewer plays and you could keep it closer and then just try to win it at the end as they did against Green Bay a couple weeks ago. Carolina's got a shot here. So the other thing I wanted to keep an eye on, Atlanta's pass rush they hit a down point, I would say, for a few weeks. They were back last week. They were creating a ton of havoc the last couple weeks against New England and against the Colts. I think they could have some success against Bryce Young, and it'll come down to, he put the ball on the turf the same way Daniel Jones did last week.
Yeah, I mean, they've been all over the place, the pass rush. Like, it's had times where it's been the difference in games, and then it's had times where it hasn't showed up at all and hasn't been a factor. Bryce Young, again, a little bit like the only thing he's been good at is pressure to sack rate. He's actually been pretty good at avoiding taking sacks when he's been under pressure and has shown some of that. And this is why it's not the same as it was when he got benched, where he just looked awful. Like he'd completely broken and he had no business being a starting quarterback at that point. He doesn't look like that now. He just isn't playing good football. But when he's under pressure, you still see some of that Alabama Bryce Young where he gets out of the pressure, generally finds somewhere to go with the ball, at least doesn't take a sack, and does something relatively positive to it. It's just that nothing else is particularly good. All the other baseline metrics of are you just playing good quarterback are no. Like he's just not playing well in any other way.
It was 30-0 that first game. Just going back to the other side of the ball. Bijan ran 13 times for 72 yards. I think they should be able to lean on that. I think, Carolina does a nice job up front with Derek Brown, A'Shaun Robinson. They've done a good job overall this year stopping the run with those defensive tackles, but those guys are less effective against wide zone schemes like Atlanta runs. That was what was confusing about the matchup, right? There was so many things that Atlanta did well that should have been good against Carolina, but the Panthers did a nice job slowing down that offense and forcing Penix outside the numbers and forcing him into some big mistakes.
Yeah, I mean that again. Matchup wise, this feels like Atlanta has an advantage across the board almost, and yet the last time they got absolutely wrecked by the Panthers. I don't understand it.
Before we make a pick, I know it's a long show. When we talk about what's at stake, we're talking about that a lot in all of these matchups. If Atlanta falls to 3-7,
if done.
If the Panthers get to 6-5 or if they don't get Bryce Young, think about both quarterbacks here. If Bryce Young doesn't show something down the stretch, he's heading into year 4 next year.
Yeah.
Is Carolina making a call on Bryce Young?
I mean, if he doesn't improve down the stretch, it's pretty hard to construct an argument that he's definitely the guy next year. Like, how could you not at least be looking for alternative options based off how he's playing this year?
So that's at stake. Second half of the year here for Bryce Young.
Meanwhile, they're in the hunt. Like they're in
of course
the playoff contention. Like they're 500. Okay, maybe the conference is a little tougher than that with the entire NFC West looking pretty useful. But I mean, they are in the wild card hunt right now with a quarterback that's playing terrible football relative to what we've seen from him in the past. It's a weird spot where they're half on the cusp of we're a surprise package and we can shock teams. And if things don't go quite well in the next couple of games, we might be looking for a new quarterback.
In their next couple of games, they play the Niners and Rams, 2 teams with winning records. They still have to play the Bucs twice and the Seahawks. Right. So it's a huge game for Carolina. If they are going to make this outside run at the playoffs, they need this one.
Yeah.
And then Atlanta, if they fall to 3-7, the Rams have their first round pick.
Yeah.
They went all in on Michael Penix. They went all in on James Pierce, giving up that first round pick. There's some heavy investment. Michael Penix Jr. has been, not great overall this season, and there's a lot at stake for Atlanta. Their entire season, which went from confusing it up and down to just a straight up disappointment since they lost to Miami.
Yeah. I mean, the problem would be for them, it's not so much like it's easy to construct the argument from their point of view that next year's first round pick, however good that's looking in terms of overall slot, is, I mean, that's James Pierce Jr., right? And those two guys look good. Like, that part of it has worked out. They aggressively went after those two edge rushers this year. They drafted one at the top of the draft. They then traded next year's first to get James Pierce Jr., and those two guys are looking really good. They're both combining in tandem. Jalen Walker looks like an every down playmaker for them, and James Pierce Jr. has been getting a ton of pressure. So that part I think you can talk yourself into. The bigger concern is that Michael Penix, the dude that had like a 9% big-time throw rate last year in limited action and looked like he was going to be this like aggressive, hyper explosive passing weapon. I mean, that's not been the case at all this year. So I'd be less concerned by the fact that they don't have next year's first-round pick because that's effectively a high-end edge rusher that they got early. I'm more concerned by the fact that the guy you thought was the quarterback of the future had a rough year.
A lot at stake here. NFC South matchup. You flipped a coin.
Yeah.
Atlanta by 3.5 here. Where did the coin land?
The coin told me Atlanta to win and cover.
I'm going to do the same thing I did in the Cincinnati-Pittsburgh game, right? I picked Pittsburgh the first time around, and it didn't go well pretty spectacularly. And I'll go back to the well. Atlanta. Picked them the first time around. They got smoked by 30. I'll take them again. And Harry's also going to take the Falcons here by 3.5, Sunday at 1. Green Bay Packers at the New York Giants. Packers are favored by 7.
Mm-hmm.
However, Jameis Winston is playing quarterback for the New York Giants. Jameis Winston as a 7-point underdog this weekend for the Giants.
Straight disrespect for Jameis.
The 5-3-1 Packers, good for third place in the NFC North right now.
Yeah. And
the 2-8 Giants. Over under 43.5 from our friends over at FanDuel.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the Packers are one of the more confusing teams in the NFL as well. Again, they look when things go well, they look like they can match anybody, and yet there's just such long stretches of like malaise where it's not working on either side of the ball to some degree, but more on offense. And like you're like, when are they going to click into gear and really dominate? Now, injuries are a part of that. Tucker Kraft going down is a big loss for them. They're down a couple of wide receivers and lost even more during the Eagles game. But like, it does still feel consistently like this team should be better than they've been.
Yeah.
Like they're more than 40 points better in terms of point differential than the Bears, who have a better record.
Yeah, they're setting all sorts of records for their 3 losses being, only giving up 30 points or whatever it is. They've had some disappointing losses. They lost to the Browns, Panthers, and then last week's game against Philly. Now, Philly's good, but you lose a 10-7 game, you're going back saying a lot of what ifs. Jordan Love fumbling and just a lot of, inability to move the ball once you get into opponent's territory over these last few weeks. That's been a huge issue for the Packers. The Giants have some pretty spectacular fourth quarter collapse numbers where I think if that keeps up, the Packers, if this is just a close game, you got to sit there and wonder about what happens there once you get into the fourth quarter, the way the Giants have collapsed. However, you got two things at stake. Two things here, Sam, when you're picking this game. How do you combine these two variables? You have Jameis Winston starting, and you have the interim head coach bump in Mike Kafka with the Giants. I mean, the Giants should probably be favored by a touchdown in this game because of that, right?
Sure. I mean, Kafka is going to be an interesting thing to kind of monitor down the stretch. Like he's somebody that has been talked up for years as one of these sort of future head coaches in waiting type of guys. Someone that his name has always been a kind of buzz name throughout the NFL as someone who has a future. I don't really understand why you would fire Brian Daboll mid-season, but one reason might be let's see what Kafka does at the helm for half a year in charge.
Yeah. Normally, I think that's overrated. You know that. I say that a lot.
And I don't know if that's a good idea, but it could be a thing.
But I wonder if it does make sense in Kafka's case. Because if the goal is not, there's only so many offensive gurus, but if you're offensive-minded head coach where you're hired essentially for your play calling acumen, we do get to get a few weeks of seeing you leading the squad and doing some game management. Like it feels more like, an interview situation than maybe some others. Or I would treat it more as an interview situation than I would some others.
And I don't know if that's a good idea or not, because you might, the record of those guys is not great. You tend to get trapped, I think, into sometimes, we've got to give the guy the job now, and he might not actually be the guy. But it is an interesting thing to keep an eye on because his name has been in those sort of circles for so long, and the Giants made this move mid-season. Maybe they are looking at it like an audition for Kafka.
I'll give you some of those numbers on the Giants and their second half collapses, 33rd team research team. Everything in the first half is pretty much middle of the pack for the Giants defense.
Okay.
Until second half, third most yards per play, third highest EPA per play, fourth highest success rate allowed is all allowed on defense. Second highest explosive play rate, first down rate, first highest, the most.
Yes.
It's all awful.
Yeah.
So Shane Bowen's defense has had some second half struggles. The opposite of what we used to always say about, Lou Anarumo, who would always make the second half adjustments. The Giants doing the opposite so far this season.
I'm kind of bummed that we're not seeing Jackson Dart, not because, any Jameis game isn't fun, but because we don't get an answer immediately for what will this look like. Like, was Brian Daboll just, sacrificing Jackson Dart's health at the altar of keeping his job alive? Or do they collectively, as a team, as a franchise, believe that it's necessary for Jackson Dart to be a huge part of this design run game in order to get the best out of him? Like, would firing Daboll immediately have gone, well, he's not going to run. Like, immediately, all design runs are off the table under Kafka. Jackson Dart's health is paramount. Brian Daboll was putting him at risk unnecessarily, and now it's all pivoting. We don't get an answer for that for at least a week, and instead we just get to watch Jameis, be Jameis.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we'll get there. So we'll see that in a couple weeks. I think Packers, it's an opportunity for them to get back on track on offense. Losing Tucker Kraft absolutely hurt. We'll see if they can get Matthew Golden back. He's been out of the lineup. They've had tons of injuries.
Lost Elton Jenkins on the offensive line.
Yeah, a lot of injuries on the offensive side for Green Bay. But again, this is where you lean on Jordan Love's got to make some big-time plays. There was definitely points in their season where it felt like they were volatile. Like even the Pittsburgh game, there's a bunch of big throws down the field from Jordan Love. And if you just miss on a couple of those and you don't have the down-to-down consistency on offense, you might have a game where you only score 7 like they did the other day. So that's what they got to figure out is some of the down-to-down consistency. Maybe more Josh Jacobs in the run game, but Green Bay's offense has been the issue in pretty much all of those losses. The defense let them down. I think that one game against Dallas, but overall they've been outstanding. The Micah Parsons addition, he's pretty good against the run too, despite what people say. So the defense has been good, keeping them in games, and they got to figure out a way to be a little bit better on offense.
Yeah, they really do. Josh Jacobs has been good. They have the playmakers there to be more productive than they've been.
Yes. All right, man. Green Bay by 7 in New York. New Jersey.
I'm going with Green Bay somehow to win and cover this on the road.
I mean, I got to stay true to
Apparently.
Jameis is in. I don't know what Jameis is going to do.
You're still waiting for his MVP season.
Yes. Jameis and an interim head coach, vibes through the roof.
Vibes.
For the Giants. I'll take the Giants. Harry's going to take Green Bay. He doesn't know. He doesn't know. Houston Texans at the Tennessee Titans.
He's not saddled by your previous take of eventually Jameis will put it all together.
He doesn't know about Jameis's volatility. I had a theory before. What was it? Yeah, it doesn't matter. I think I had a working theory a couple of years ago that the more volatile quarterbacks are inherently when PFF was trying to make betting products and everything. I was like, what if you just threw Jameis Winston types out of the sample? Like, do they screw up the sample so much because of their volatility? And if you throw them out of the sample, would that increase your hit rate type of thing?
Jameis Winston is the East German judge. You just take the score
just
out.
Throw it out.
Doesn't count.
I still think every time you see the league-wide trends, points are up, interceptions are down over the last 3 years, it's literally just Jameis not starting. Or yards per attempt are down. It's literally just Jameis not
Has
starting.
Jameis been benched or not determines.
He's a force multiplier for league average trends
right.
in every direction. Houston Texans at the Tennessee Titans Sunday at 1. Texans by 6.5 here. Still don't know about C.J. Stroud. I think
Sounds like he's going to be out.
Yeah. I don't know if that's always how it works with concussions as far as the recovery. It was a huge blow to the head.
He hasn't come out of the protocol yet, so he's still in he's not cleared for anything, even if.
So it might be the second straight week without C.J. Stroud. I think if Stroud was there, the line's probably closer to 10. I know it's on the road. Davis Mills did a really nice job after a slow start. Led that big comeback last week. I believe he's also on the injury report. He's at least on there, but expecting him to play and have a second straight start here against the Titans, who are 1-8.
Yeah.
Texans may have saved their season last week.
Yeah.
Chance to get back to 500 here.
I mean, they stayed alive at least. I mean, this is, they're one of a few teams just trying to remain with a heartbeat and get deep enough into this playoff mix that they could go on a run and maybe turn things around.
I will tell you what the schedule is, though.
Yeah, it's not. I mean,
they play the Thursday night game against Buffalo next week. Watch along. Then they're at Indianapolis and at Kansas City. So Texans have to take care of business this week, get to 5-5, and then play Bills, Colts, Chiefs over the next 3 weeks and see if they're legit or if they're not a playoff team this year.
Unfortunately, if we are, in fact, without C.J. Stroud, we miss out on this thing, which is Seth Payne tweeting that the last time C.J. Stroud had a concussion and came back, he earned the most glorious broadcast graphic the sport has ever seen, which is Stroud and his head coach sitting on an actual Houston Texan logo mechanical cow. Yeah, mechanical bull bouncing around. It's quite the graphic. I mean, that must have been a meeting, the ideation session for that graphic must have been something.
Iterations of the mechanical bull do you think they had?
Just how do you, the blue sky thinking that came up with that? Like, who pitched that as a thing? What if we took Stroud and Ryans
is this CBS?
and
Fox?
Put them on a mechanical bull?
This looks like a Fox graphic, right?
Colored the shape of the Texans graphic and had them just bouncing around while we put some graphics beside it.
Like the idea came out on Monday. It's like, we're going to need you to take the bull and put it in Texans colors by Sunday if you could.
Just such a fascinating. I could be locked. The million monkeys for a million hours will eventually type Shakespeare. Like, I could be locked in a room for the rest of all time and would never come up with that idea as a thing to put on the screen.
Monkeys will never type Shakespeare. We're just going to spend most of our Texans time talking about Seth Payne every week. That's what we're going to do. Friend of the show, Seth. Titans coming off their bye. I'm interested to see if
friend of the show, former turncoat.
I mean, overall
current
turncoat.
Yeah,
you're always a turncoat. It's like being president.
Once you're a turncoat.
Once a turncoat, you're just
always
a turncoat. That's what you are. Want to see what Cam Ward does coming out of the bye here for the Titans?
Yeah.
What did they go back and usually spend your time saying, what are we doing well? Not much. What are we not doing well? Most everything else. How do we fix it?
What are we doing well?
Nothing, really. Calvin Ridley's supposed to be coming back, and it's another tough challenge for Cam Ward going up against this defense with their pressure package, all the pressure that they create, and the tight man coverage. Maybe Ridley helps a little bit winning some one-on-ones, but see if they can get anything going offensively.
I mean, that's the big thing. Like, how can they survive against this Texans pass rush, particularly the two edge rushers who are both dominating right now? Will Anderson, Donnell Hunter, those guys are both absolutely cooking. The Titans' offensive line is better than it used to be, but it's still not good, and I don't know if they can hold up against that group.
We did see the Titans a couple weeks ago create a lot of havoc against Justin Herbert and that bad offensive line, the sim pressures, the five-man rushes that they bring. Jeffrey Simmons has had an outstanding season for Tennessee. I do think they could, have some success against the Texans. You summed up Houston a couple weeks ago as if they face a good pass rush, they're struggling. If they face a bad pass rush, they can hold up. Tennessee on paper doesn't have a good pass rush. They traded Draymond Jones during the bye week. But the sim pressure stuff is the type of thing that has messed with Houston quite a bit, and the Tennessee Titans do run that. It is a Ravens-ish derivative scheme. Could be a way that Tennessee creates some havoc on Davis Mills.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, Davis Mills, he's got like 6 wins or something in his career, and half of them have been against the Jags. So any other team has got to be looking at Davis Mills and going, there's a pretty good chance we can get after him and win the game.
Wasn't that Daniel Jones against Washington? Like all his games were against Washington, or all his wins until he got to the Colts, of course. All right, I got not much else on this one.
No, I mean it doesn't feel like a barn burner.
Houston by 6.5. Over/under is just 37.5 in Tennessee this weekend. Again, my eyes are on Cam Ward, his development. Can we get the ball out of his hands quicker? Cut down on the sack rate. Do they use his legs a little bit more? We've asked that question, right? If you're going to take all those negative plays, can you make up with it with a couple first down scrambles or whatever it might be? So I want to keep an eye on that from a Titans perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I would tap into that more. On the other hand, the cautionary tale there is Jackson Dart.
I get it.
You used him a lot as a runner, and now he's been concussed 4 times straight.
Yeah. I mean, I like that.
Evaluated 4 times
straight.
Only actually concussed twice.
Develop Ward as a passer and then unleash his legs maybe in year 2 if you need to. 6.5 here. Where are you going to go?
I'm going with the Texans to cover this.
Same, as will Harry. Texans by 6.5. We'll all take it. 2 more games. Baltimore Ravens at the Cleveland Browns. Ravens won pretty handily the first time. There was a lot of turnovers in there. Browns defense held their own. It's Baltimore by 7.5 here. They're 4-5. The 2-7 Browns coming off their loss to the Jets, over/under 39.5 from FanDuel. As I said during the Steelers game, if the Bengals can pull the upset against the Steelers, the Ravens could be in first by the end of Sunday if they get the win here. It's, by the way, a 4:25 game, going head-to-head with Chiefs, Broncos, and Rams, Seahawks, and everything.
Lamar Jackson missed practice for a bit, but seems to be on track to kind of come back and play. Like, I don't think it's a risk that he's not going to play in this game, but it's at least worth throwing out there as a thing. You would expect Baltimore's offense.
It's a knee, by the way.
Yeah.
Not hamstring.
Right. You would expect Baltimore's offense to be able to do a decent job, even though the Browns' defense did fight pretty hard the last time they played. I think the Browns are in a worse place now than they were in terms of, season's gone. I think they'll probably be okay. The intriguing thing, I think, is the other side of the ball. And, obviously Kevin Stefanski gave up play calling duties. I think if you were to identify anything that changed, you would say there seemed to be a focus on trying to get the ball in the hands of the good playmakers, right? Like they seem to feed the ball to Jerry Jeudy last week. They were trying to manufacture touches for, guys like Malachi Corley. It's like, we've got some playmakers. Let's actually try and get them the ball early and often and maybe get them involved in a game that we could potentially win. And, we've got confidence that David Njoku and Harold Fannin are useful players, but Jerry Jeudy needs to be a part of this game as well, particularly if we're going to need him in the fourth quarter and he's already checked out at that point and dropped passes that we need him to catch. Let's try and feed him the ball early and, get a touchdown on the board and all those kinds of things. So I think if you were to identify anything with this shift in play caller, it's they are trying to get the ball in the hands of people that can actually make a difference on offense. And, Dylan Gabriel had one of his better games last week.
Astute point. I think it was Gabriel's best game from what I saw. And it wasn't saying much. I didn't think he played
It's not a high bar.
Yeah. He's last in a lot of the metrics, last in PFF grade, second to last in EPA per play, last in average depth of target.
And that's one thing they do appear to be trying to focus on is look, let's just cut loose a little bit. Particularly, you probably can't say this internally, but have some awareness, Mr. Gabriel, to understand that you're on a pretty short leash here and you have a very limited amount of time to show positivity because Shedeur is waiting in the wings. And even if you get the rest of the season, the next guy is coming in the draft. So you've got 5 minutes to show us that you can throw the ball downfield and make an impact. And right now you're not doing that at all. Just go nuts. What's the worst that could happen? You throw a couple of picks and you're benched 5 minutes earlier than you were going to get benched anyway.
Yeah, that's what I want to see. Just start taking some shots downfield. Not blindly, but just be more aggressive.
Right.
Dial them up, be more aggressive.
But there's something to just do it blindly.
Especially the way
just show that.
The way Baltimore set up to Roquan Smith, Kyle Hamilton playing in and around the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
Their strengths are there. Where you're throwing the ball over the middle blindly all the time. Kyle Hamilton could be
there's just
eyes on Dylan Gabriel and make a play or two here. So just take some shots down the field. I want to see that from Cleveland.
There's no downside for Gabriel to just cutting it loose and being hyper aggressive. Even if you overcorrect, even if you go too far, even if you throw some picks, you basically have no shot at winning the job at this point based off what you've shown on the field. Being conservative, trying to do it by the numbers, the correct way. Let's only go where I'm comfortable with the ball, where always take the profit, right? You're not making enough profit, so they're going to bench you. So the only thing you can do to change their mind is swing all the way in the opposite direction and tap into your inner J.J. McCarthy and lead the league in average depth of target and just try and make some big plays.
Start chucking it.
Yeah. YOLO.
Baltimore.
What would Jameis do?
I mentioned this during the Pittsburgh breakdown, but Baltimore has Cleveland and the Jets the next 2 weeks, and then Cincinnati, Turkey Day night. So chance to go on, continue this run. They've already won 3 straight.
Yeah.
That's 3 more games that they're going to be heavily favored, and before they play Pittsburgh on December 7th at home. Mm-hmm. So this is the stretch. This is the run that FanDuel's odds anticipated, that when we were making projections of 4 or 5 weeks ago saying, hey, the 1-5 Ravens still have a chance here. Well, they're at 4-5 with a chance to finally get back to 500 here. Even if Tyler Huntley had to play for some reason, still can see them favored by a score, right? So
you would still expect them to win, even if it gets a lot closer.
Ravens by 7.5. It's 4:25 Sunday. Where are you going to go with this one?
I'm just going to check the weather first. Cleveland.
Oh, probably windy.
These things can happen. This is a slow-loading weather site, which isn't helping.
Let me get my app here.
Okay, Sunday.
I'm going to get my weather, friends. We're going to get
nothing. It's the same as Pittsburgh, effectively. We got 40s. We got
weak
shower in the morning.
AFC North weather.
Cooler, but some potential wind. So generally not a problem, but don't sleep on wind being a factor.
That's what happens when you have a stadium near the ocean. The
lake.
Ocean. Oil can Boyd. It's the oil can Boyd joke. Dusted it off again.
Doesn't sound like a good one.
Weeks later. That's what he said. I'll take Baltimore here. Is that what you're taking? Is that what you said?
Yes.
I'll also take Baltimore.
Wait, what?
Harry will take
Okay, maybe it's going to be very windy.
Oh, what do we have?
So
Abort.
again,
Take Cleveland.
Right.
Take the Dogs.
Adjust. It gives this thing of wind, west-northwest, I guess is what that is, 22 miles an hour. So it's already pretty high.
That's game plan cutoff worthy.
Gusts to
40.
45.
Wow. All right.
Time to change everything.
Baltimore's run game, though, I think they'll be.
You think they'll just establish the run with 45-mile-an-hour gusts?
But when that happens, if both teams run the ball a lot, it's one of those 7 or 8 possession games. It tightens it up. I'm still taking Baltimore.
So am I, but I'm not going to regret it.
I think Gabriel has a good arm, but he's not making me look good. He's not really zipping it around. Can he cut the wind here?
When this is a 12-10 game, I'm going to be upset.
Yes.
Because we called it with the weather.
You 45 are all taking
gusts.
Baltimore. Let me ask the people, if we had actual weather reports as we get into December and January, like we just cut to actual weather people. I might have a connection to make this happen. We cut to actual weather people, a little 15-second, only like 3 games per week that probably have significant weather, but we got like a little 15-second cut to that. Would that be interesting? Rather than you looking it up on, in real time.
I think it would be funnier if you found somebody ridiculous to just read us a weather report, like a weather person,
Maybe that's part of the billionaire tier. You could be the weather reporter for the show.
Or eventually when we get a green screen in here, like we could have Mike Renner come in on a weekly basis and be the weather girl.
There's snow. Everybody stay home. I'm afraid to drive in the snow, so nobody leave their house. It's gonna be a blizzard out there, 2 to 4 inches.
There's snow. I wouldn't even make it to the stadium.
Renner's gonna be our weather guy. We got one more game.
That's probably why he decamped to Florida.
If you have YouTube TV, stop listening. It's Monday Night Football. Dallas Cowboys at the Las Vegas Raiders. Monday night, 8:15 for those with access. Cowboys favored by 3.5 here. We're on to Monday night.
How are the Cowboys in primetime again? I mean, they're the Cowboys, I guess.
How are they not? I mean, it's a classic matchup. Cowboys-Raiders.
Cowboys-Raiders. Yeah, I mean, back in the day, this might have been a great Monday Night Football matchup. Right now.
Was this a Super Bowl matchup in the 70s? Had to be.
Wouldn't have been. Yeah,
one
surely.
Of them. Somewhere in the 70s,
maybe.
I don't know.
The same.
I know.
Probably should know that.
I know baseball history better than football, as I always say. Anyway, Cowboys by 3.5. Over/unders 50.5 per FanDuel.
Yeah.
Lost our graphics team.
Man down on the graphics team. Dallas Buffalo.
You're doing it on.
Yeah. Why not?
Why don't we add a historian to the team? Josh Dubow is going to be our fact checker. on here.
He would know that off the top of his head.
course
You
he
and me, these idiots without any kind of historical knowledge.
Why would I ask? I mean, it's my own fault for saying the 70s. Give me 80s or 90s.
I
I'll
don't
give
think
you all
it
the
was.
answers.
I think because the Raiders beat the Vikings when they won theirs. I don't think
It was
Dallas.
Cowboys Broncos. I brought that up.
Right. I don't think
That
Dallas
was in the
ever.
70s.
That Dallas beat. They lost to Pittsburgh. I don't
we
think
just
Dallas.
asked Walt.
Walt would know. Yeah, Walt was there. I don't think Dallas ever beat.
70s Raiders were 17-1 on Monday Night Football per Walt.
Huh. Yeah, I don't think they ever. I don't think this was ever a Super Bowl matchup.
Well, good. It's Monday Night Football, though. What do you look? Oh, jeez.
Uh-oh. It was only a matter of time before the.
It's not broken. The
Steve.
chair's not broken. It just came from the.
Steve constructed
Just
chair.
broke the lock.
I mean, we get Quinn and Williams presumably debut. Now you got one of the best defensive tackle tandems in the NFL, trying to fix everything for the Dallas defense.
See, that's interesting. Quinn and Williams and Kenny Clark against.
And it is a weakness now, going up
Yeah.
against the Raiders' offensive line minus Jackson Powers-Johnson. It was already not a great interior unit. I mean, it is an area of attack.
See if Dallas can dominate up front. Their front has played better in recent weeks. They're creating some pressure. I mean, they're not fully there yet, I think, as a defense, but I think they're moving in the right direction. We'll see what kind of impact Quinnen makes here. And Dallas at 3-5-1, running out of time. They can't lose any more games if they're going to be one of the teams that makes this outside playoff run as well.
Yeah. I'm also kind of curious, are the Raiders able to – I mean, the Dallas defense has been a get-right spot for most teams in the NFL this year. Now, maybe that changes. With Quinn and Williams coming in, I wouldn't bet the farm on it. So against this Dallas defense, can Geno Smith continue the sort of slight uptick in performance we've seen in recent weeks? Brock Bowers back in the lineup, obviously. Ashton Genty still looks dynamic if you can give him just a little bit of room. Can they have joy this week? Because the Raiders shouldn't be as bad as they've been.
I feel like I've said that for 9 straight weeks.
I know, and that's the problem. Is eventually they're just there. You are as bad as you look.
When they're feeding Brock Bowers, and I know you can't just throw him the ball blindly, but when they're
probably
feeding
can
Brock
against
Bowers,
Dallas,
it
though.
looks different.
Yeah.
Coming off a 3-target game against Denver.
That's the thing. It's like, but look, Denver's defense is elite. Dallas's defense is cheeks.
So, do we have shootout potential here? I mean, the Raiders' defense isn't great either.
No, it's not.
They're coming off a good game against Denver, but the wind and Bo Nix and his inconsistency.
Yeah.
So I think we should see some points. Dak's still playing pretty well. He's come back down to earth a little bit these last couple of weeks. Remember, he was playing out of his mind under pressure earlier in the year, and it's one of the more difficult things as an analyst because you say credit, awesome, good job, tough to sustain, right? Can't bank on that every single week. There was a point earlier this year where Dak Prescott under pressure numbers were insanely elite, and it's tough to keep that up. And he's come back down to earth as far as that goes.
Cowboys are getting a couple of defensive bodies back, though. Demarion Overshown, the linebacker who had that devastating knee injury, has been activated from the PUP list, so at some point he's coming back. And God knows they need linebacker additions on that defense. And then, I forget, what was the official pronunciation of his name? Siobhan Revel?
Revel, yeah. Siobhan Revel, I think that sounds right. East Carolina.
Yeah, the East Carolina rookie cornerback has been activated from the NFI as well. So theoretically, maybe not in this game, but on the road to some reinforcements on defense.
And linebacker's been an issue for Dallas. We know corner's been an issue. Deron Bland was getting cooked a couple weeks ago against Arizona.
Yeah.
And Bland's been a good player in the past, but, he's been a good player but he's also had these games like DK Metcalf took it to him a couple of years ago. If he's not, turning the ball over, pick sixes, and he's okay outside of the turnovers, but he can create some of those high-end plays. So Revel was a third-round pick who I thought was a fringe first-rounder for East Carolina, who had the injury, has some length, some athleticism. It'll be interesting to see if Dallas can, if you add those couple pieces in the next couple weeks, plus Quinnen Williams. And what we've said a lot, like early in the season, we were reading off stats and we were like, Dallas's defense has made their opposing quarterbacks look like, name the best quarterback season of all time. 07 Brady, 04 Peyton, whatever. Name the best season. And it's Dallas's opponents. And again, from an analysis standpoint, it's like, this is awful, but it can't be that bad. Like it's very tough to sustain. It's really tough to have your defense make everybody look like 2018 Mahomes, statistically. So at some point, they got to get better. Plus, they're getting some reinforcements, so maybe Dallas can get a little bit better here in the last 7 or 8 weeks.
It is difficult to be, historically terrible. They do, however, remain historically terrible. Like they are giving up a passer rating of like 112 to opposing quarterbacks on the year. It's still pretty bad. 8.2 yards per attempt, 22 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Like it's pretty catastrophic for Dallas's defense. So that's why, Geno should be able to do something.
Do you think the carriage dispute will be sorted by Monday Night Football?
No.
Okay. There's rumblings that they're getting closer.
YouTube TV was put at their latest attempt to fight the PR battle. They were saying the dispute's not over ESPN at all. It's over ABC, apparently.
Which doesn't change anything other than it's still a dispute over a channel. And
it doesn't, though. I think it actually doesn't help their argument either. Like most people assumed that ESPN was putting the squeeze on because they wanted to push everyone to their own product. That's like, if it turns out it's actually ABC is the hang-up, well then why you...
But
that raises the question of why are you screwing around?
Yeah, perhaps. All right, Dallas by 3.5. Where are you going to go?
I'm going to go with the Raiders. I believe this Dallas defense is still terrible, and therefore the Raiders' offense should be better, and therefore it'll be a closer game than this.
Give me the Cowboys, because I don't think their defense is going to be that historically bad all year.
All the time.
And Dak will have success against the Raiders. Harry's going to take the Raiders here.
This is they can't be that bad all the time, Bo. Dallas' defense and the Raiders' offense. Like, one of them can't be that terrible.
Better. They should be better in this game. It's going to be a good game. I know it. Throw the records out the window.
Throw it out.
2-7 versus 3-5-1. Throw them out the window. It's a historic game, Dallas and the Raiders.
There wasn't a Super Bowl.
How many more? Then we get Dallas on Thanksgiving. Then we have Dallas on Thursday Night Football against the Lions. How many more primetime games do we have these Cowboys?
All of them.
Eagles at the 4:25 window.
You got to have Dallas in primetime. Otherwise, what are you even doing?
There's an 8 in front of the start time for 3 of their next 5 games. And they're coming off.
And one of the ones that isn't is a Thanksgiving game, right?
Yes. So 4 out of 6 games start in primetime.
Yeah.
And the other 2 start in the 4:25 window.
You think ratings just make themselves?
They play the Chiefs on Thanksgiving. And then we're going to bury them in the 1 o'clock window for a couple weeks.
Wow, just straight disrespect to the ratings juggernaut that is Cowboys.
Fair. It's not fair to the Cowboys. Is that it? Do we miss anything? Good game. Good show. Get my notes. Notes are done. We out. That's it for us. Week 11. We'll be here live tonight after the show.
See, hit subscribe on the way out. What are we at now? We've got to be 60.
So we have a goal of 100 subscribers, 67.6.
We're chasing 100. We're a long way off. We got 67,000.
We have a goal of 100 by the draft.
We want the play button. We had a silver play button that we've previously earned, but we no longer own. Somebody else has it. We want ours back. We want a real one that we've earned again ourselves, and we want to, we can mount it on the wall or whatever. We do whatever we want with it, but we want our play button. And in order to get our play button, we need 100,000 subscribers.
It's got to be a team effort.
Everybody.
We're merely 2 men. We can't do it. There's only so many burners that we can create to get us there. So we got to get to 100. And we want to do it by draft time. You saw the huge jump from February through May with draft time. People love to come in during the offseason. We love the offseason, but we got to get some momentum heading into the offseason here. We're going to have Mike Renner. We have a bonus show coming out tomorrow too, actually, by the way. So if you are subscribed, you'll see this bonus show with Dane Brugler breaking down his top 50 draft prospects coming out on The Athletic. Give you some names to know, some QB discussion. So that's tomorrow. And then next week, another bonus show, Mike Renner, talking about his mock draft.
Nice.
It's mock draft season. So we're going to be talking about that next week.
What if we've already had snow on the ground? What if you get another snow day?
He won't make it in. If it snows next Wednesday, he won't make it in for our pre-record.
Yeah.
So anyway, thanks to everybody for tuning in. Enjoy Thursday Night Football. We'll see you on the Instant Reaction. We'll see you Monday morning. More Check the Mic, Week 11 review.